And I just can't understand why people like Sonny Jurgensen or I don't want to single him out, but out of the 8 Dolphin-affiliated people in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the only one who was there this weekend that I know of.
A reliable mechanic for your car. You got to find a great local restaurant, and you got to find a new jeweler. Found mine, J.R. Dunn Jewelers, North Federal Highway at Lighthouse Point. Dropped by, met Sean, met Jim Dunn, met the whole staff, met Mrs. Dunn, who's really the boss. And they were so welcoming, I can tell you right away that J.R. Dunn's a first-class operation built on relationship. If you're looking for an engagement ring, take a tour of the Diamond Cutter showroom. I did. Unbelievable. Anniversary gift. Whoa. Wait until, well, maybe I can wait because I have to dig deep into the pockets to see the gorgeous fashion jewelry pieces or let my wife see them. Let them custom create something with a Robert Pelliccia original design. So I'm glad I discovered J.R. Dunn Jewelers, and very soon they'll have a new location open on Los Otos Boulevard in downtown Fort Lauderdale. For right now, stop in, see them at 4210 North Federal Highway, Lighthouse Point. Just like me, you're going to feel right at home and very comfortable dealing with Jim and with Sean and with everybody at J.R. Dunn Jewelers.
Okay, installers, today we're going to talk football. With NFL Sunday Ticket on DirecTV, customers get up to 14 regular season NFL games every Sunday, and this is not on cable.
No way, baby. Sir, do we really need to be in a huddle to discuss this?
Of course we do, O'Dowd. Where's your team spirit?
Yeah, O'Dowd.
Now, in addition to the up to 14 NFL games, customers also get access to 31 premium movie channels. Walker, put that mascot uniform back on.
It stinks.
Walker, these people want football, and football is what we're going to give them. That and local channels.
Yeah.
So stick to the game plan.
Yeah.
Follow your gut.
Yeah.
Avoid the trenches.
Yeah.
And be the best darn installers you can be.
Sir, must you pat my butt when you say that?
It's a football thing.
Oh.
Now get 4 free months of our best programming package. Just subscribe to NFL Sunday Ticket and Total Choice Premier Programming with an annual commitment to any Total Choice programming package. Call 1-800-DIRECTV or see your local retailer. DirecTV. Feel the joy. Offer ends 10/12/02. New customers only. Hardware and programming sold separately. Blackout rules and other conditions apply. See retailer for details.
Iguana Sports.
Hey, football fans, have we got the place for you?
Iguana Sports, located inside Cafe Iguana, Pembroke Pines.
Every Sunday, doors open at noon for football, football, football. Watch your favorite teams on over 80 TVs, including 8 big screens and our personal VIP viewing table.
Call for reservations. Iguana Sports.
$5 polar pitchers, Bud or Bud Light. $5 pizzas any way you like. 25-cent iguana wings. Plus, everyone gets a space on the Bud board for a chance to win great prizes.
Sunday afternoons at Iguana Sports.
Are you ready for the football?
Hey, Fins fans, Steve Goldstein joined me along with Don Bailey Jr. at Cafe Iguana for the Big Dolphin postgame show live. There'll be giveaways and a lot more, so we'll see you Sunday.
Kick off your week with Monday Night Football. 5 for 5 domestic bottles.
Great special Saturday for ESPN College Game Day. Doors open at noon. Iguana Sports, located inside Cafe Iguana on the southwest corner of Pines and University in Pembroke Pines.
This is South Florida's only real sports station, WQAM, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, a Beasley Broadcast Group station, and WQAM.com. World.
Yeah. I'm hearing that echo again.
In Appleton, Wisconsin one night before a Dolphin game. And I was standing between you and Joe Robbie at the bar. And you guys were talking through me since you weren't speaking to each other. And it was, tell him this and tell him that. And I was like the messenger between you two guys, but there genuinely was not a lot.
Friday, you bastard. The echo's gone. Thank goodness for that. Okay, it's 9:04. We're a little bit late, but then again, hey, Mo, take all the time you want, baby. No problem. Lashana Tova and get out of here. And by the way, there's something under your wig. So, terrorist threat shuts down a 20-mile stretch of I-75, which you heard a little while ago. This story has been going on all morning long. A possible terrorist threat in South Florida appears to have been thwarted, says NBC6, but I mean, we really don't know that much. 3 men in 2 vehicles have been detained and they're still being held this morning near Naples. Police say the stops were based on possible terrorist threat information from Georgia. Live TV shots show that explosive charges being used to blast open what appeared to be a backpack taken from one of the vehicles. They said there were no explosives in the backpack. About 1 o'clock this morning, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement issued what it calls a BOLO, or a Be on the Lookout message, to law enforcement agencies across the entire state of Florida. A message coming from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation asked law enforcement to be on the lookout for 3 possible terrorist suspects making threats about potential terrorism activities in the Miami area. Authorities say they had what they believe to be credible information regarding 3 men, possibly of Middle Eastern descent, who were headed to South Florida and made threats about potential terrorism activities in the Miami area. Law enforcement officials said a waitress overheard these men having a conversation at a Shoney's restaurant in Calhoun, Georgia yesterday. Miguel says he ate at Shoney's once and dropped some bombs of his own. The men reportedly were overheard saying they, meaning Americans, mourned on 9/11 and they're going to mourn again on 9/13, meaning today. Local police were asked to look for a new black Honda with Illinois license plates. NBC5 in Chicago reports that authorities have traced one of the cars to an address in suburban Bartlett, Illinois. And so there you go. They got a 20-mile stretch, and they also have a no-fly zone over the Alligator Alley at the moment. And it's and they're still interrogating. They really don't know that much.
Another reason that it's very time-consuming, that they are meticulously searching this. As they go through each piece of the vehicle, as you could imagine, you just think of your own. You could hide explosives anywhere in a car, so it's not just the common areas of a vehicle that need to be searched. It's the entire vehicles. There are 2 of them. I don't know if anything has been found that raises more concerns, but you need to do this slow and methodical, because if a mistake is made and someone is injured, there's no coming back from that, and that's why it's scary.
Lieutenant McNarty, we haven't been able to confirm whether these 2 vehicles and the men in the 2 vehicles are related. Can you?
The only information I have to that is these are both of the 2 vehicles that were put on bulletins to be on the lookout for, associated with the information out of Georgia.
And then the other point that has been raised here is when you look at the map, which we're going to do now, is the geography of the state. Someone pointed out that the Turkey Point nuclear power plant maybe more than a couple dozen miles away. What is the level of concern there about the vulnerability of power plants in your state? I'm not saying the 2 of these are connected at all, but
no,
certainly when you look at
Paula.
the geography, you can't ignore the fact that that power plant exists.
He's speechless.
Lieutenant, are you still with us?
No, he probably just dropped the phone. Nice going, Paula. I think she chased him away with an idiotic question like that. Because they don't know a damn thing, and right away she's talking nuclear power plants. But, of course, that's the news media for you, because they're crazy. So before anybody gets all panicky and bent out of shape and psychotic, they don't know that much. And they got everything laid out there on the road, on the alley, and they're looking and investigating. And, of course, we don't know if they were bombs or who knows if they were really terrorists at all. And, of course, it might have been other things than bombs. Could have been chemical agents or whatever. But, again, what's the point of speculating as opposed to like to get everybody whipped up to a frenzy like Paula's trying to do there with her nuclear power plant with Turkey Point. Speaking of Turkey, Paula, okay, let's get back and just calm down and relax. And when we find anything, we'll, keep monitoring the situation, as they say. We're monitoring the situation. Happy Friday the 13th to you. We asked yesterday, what do you call soft drinks on our pool? We had 780 people who said soda, 452. It was no contest. That soda versus pop thing, not in South Florida. Soda, 452. Coke, 162. I don't ever drink that, Schmidt, 90. Pop, 63. And tonic, 13 said tonic, which I find most amusing. Should I do our poll question today right now, or should we do the fact? Let's see. Janet Reno, by the way, she's not going down without a fight, baby. We got that story coming up. Bill McBride says last night that he's the Democratic nominee for governor, and Janet says, not so fast there, cowboy. Not so fast. So we still can't get it done. Every newscast last night, every show, every newscast, making fun of us in Florida. And, of course, we're used to it, so we say,
all right.
Hey, thanks, we can use the publicity, I guess that's our new motto now. No publicity is bad publicity. We'll take it. Got a shocking editorial, a sensational and shocking editorial from the National Post this morning here in Toronto. Couldn't believe it. I looked at the headline, and I thought it had to be like sarcastic or a joke, and I read the whole, which I'll get to it. Why stop at pot? Legalize all drugs, is what it says. And take some real shots at the so-called U.S. war on drugs in here. Great editorial. And I don't think we'd be reading that in the Herald or the Sun Sentinel, do you? I don't think so. So Janet's ready for a fight. I got a book, and then the London Times says U.S. tempts Russia with profits of ousting Saddam. And basically what it says is that we made them an offer they couldn't refuse, Putin, so that the Russians would go along with us. And the Bushmeister was on there this morning mumbling a little bit. They had that on CNN saying he doesn't really expect that Saddam is going to go along with whatever sanctions or whatever proposal, resolution the UN drafts. And, of course, does anybody ever go along with resolutions of the UN?
No.
Not really, but nevertheless. So, of course, the game plan has already been drawn up. I've got a book that I bought yesterday which will just make the hair stand on your head. It's called Forbidden Truth, U.S. Taliban Secret Oil Diplomacy and the Failed Hunt for Bin Laden by Jean-Charles Brissard and Guillaume Desquet. Two frogs. And this, it says international bestseller, banned by the Bin Laden family, by the way. And I'm going to read today, a little bit later on, just the introduction and prologue, which is quite lengthy. But at any rate, it's unbelievable. So those of you people who want to continue living like ostriches with your head buried in the sand and believe everything the government tells you, hey, it's a free country, or at least it still is at this moment, and we might even have another election. We got off to a late start, kind of like threw me off a little bit, you know what I mean?
You okay?
I'm fine. And, of course, is George okay? That's the question. You notice Miguel is there again today.
Hi.
And the reason Miguel is there is because George is sick as a dog. But being the trooper that he is, and being as horny as he is, even when he's sick as a dog, he was there at Treasure Island last night wrapped in a schmata.
You look like Grandma.
He looked like Grandma Moses on a bad day with a schmata around him. Why did he bother showing up? I don't get it.
Money.
I see. Excellent. Nice going, George.
Oh!
So he's going to the doctor today to get checked out and see if he's still alive or whatever. But he'll be okay. He'll be back on Monday. In fact, as we approach payday, of course, he gets paid automatic deposit anyway, so we don't have to worry about picking up checks, things like that. It's 11 past 9 at 560 QM. Jeannie Missouri, what the hell is she saying here? Anything important on CNN?
Concern. Everything is being investigated and investigated thoroughly as this incident is. They may turn up some bad people along the way, but it does not necessarily mean that any of these incidents is going to have anything to do with terrorism.
Now, did she say bad people? I think she meant evildoers, didn't she? I think she meant evildoers, but a slip of the tongue. Some bad people. In other words, these folks who do these things is what Jeannie meant to say on CNN, where they seem to be becoming just a little bit unglued this morning. 12 minutes after 9 at 560 WQAM. VIPSportsbook.com. That name, I bet, sounds really familiar. And it should, because VIPSportsbook.com is the only sportsbook in the universe to be endorsed by all the industry watchdog groups since 1996. The Casino Times News recent issue says you can look, but you won't find a better overall sportsbook than VIPSportsbook.com. But maybe you're looking for more than just a world-class book that offers 24-hour VIP service and the safety of a leader. How about the highest parlay odds you'll find anywhere? Up to 2,000 to 1. Minimum bets of only $5 and free withdrawals 24 hours a day and a 15% cash bonus added to your first deposit. Now, this isn't some jungle book located like in West Dade. This is Dutch-based VIPSportsbook.com. And when we say Dutch-based, I get really excited. Where you're treated with class and your money is safe. Sign up online, get yourself a 15% cash bonus added to your account, or call them toll-free at 866-VIP-BETS, 866-VIP-BETS. Easy to get started. Just go online and go to VIPSportsbook.com. And don't forget, when you sign up online, that's when you get you that 15% cash bonus. Be a winner at VIPSportsbook.com, where you are the VIP.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560. QAM.
Yeah. You said the worst confrontation you had was with Garrow, but there were guys who could be, if not belligerent, at least would turn their backs on you.
Well, the toughest guy to talk to after the Dolphin game, if they lost, was Manny Fernandez, because Manny took losing so hard, and I always admired him for this. Although I really never thought Manny would turn out to be the great, solid citizen that he's become. You didn't dare go up to Manny because he might go berserk. He took losing so hard. A lot of others. Nick Bonacani, boy, whew. You didn't want to be around him after they lost. There were other guys who stayed on an even keel, like Shula most of the time. Bob Greasy. You couldn't even tell from talking to Bob Greasy whether they won or lost.
Yeah. Edwin, one more thing, and that is, among other things that you've done all these years, you've been the South Florida voter in the Hall of Fame election every year. That's not an easy job. I think people kind of look at that, and maybe they don't really understand all that goes into it. There are always people who are quick to. I was listening to a national talk show this weekend where they were ripping the voters for not putting Bob Hayes in. There's always some constituency out there that's unhappy.
That is very true.
yet I think it's an arduous process, is it not?
It is arduous and has been arduous for the nearly 30 years I've been on there, and worse than that, is getting more and more arduous every year, because every year the NFL keeps burping out more and more players who are eligible, who've finished their careers 5 years ago, and it's like every year you have the same 5-pound sack, but now this year you're trying to put 12 pounds into the 5-pound sack. Next year you got to put 15 pounds in there, and it just gets tougher and tougher. And people don't realize how tough it is to make the Hall of Fame. Every coach thinks all of his players should be in there. I can tell you this, that a lot of the voters, selectors, sort of resent the fact that there's so many Dolphins in there. Some of them don't think. Some of them resent Bob Greasy being in there. I obviously do not resent it, since I presented him and certainly endorsed him. Some of them resent Jim Langer being in there. It's very odd, though. Of all the Dolphins in there, they have 6 offensive players, only 1 defensive player, Nick Bonacani, and the coach, Don Shula. And on the Super Bowl teams, the defense was better than the offense.
The sky is falling.
There should be no doubt in anybody's mind this man is thumbing his nose at the world. But Americans need to know I'll be making up my mind on how best to protect our own country, plus our friends and allies.
Hey, George, what you telling for? That we're about to go to war. Yes, you, Georgie Sr.'s little son. Boy, that was dumb. Hey, George, now you're looking for that guy who's threatened us before. Guess what? You made one big boo-boo, see? Believe me, that was just swell that you had to tell the plan to attack, and he'll get whacked. That'll just guarantee their leader will be absentee. Tell me, why'd you have to go and tell Iraq they're gonna be invaded? You see, Saddam now knows you're coming for him, so we'll find a way to escape it. He's the guy that you hate. Now he's making his way underground, so I doubt that we're ever gonna find him. Honestly, I can't believe you told Iraq they'll be invaded. No, no, no.
No. 9:18 at 560 WQM. Happy Friday to you. The sun is shining. It's beautiful here. Is it still crappy weather there too?
Yep.
Is it really?
I don't know. I got here, it was still dark.
I see, because it's at least not raining on the alley, and we've got 8 zillion porkers out there on the alley, and they got, what is that thing? Did you see that kind of like silver-looking thing? It looked like some kind of a tent. Did you see that? They've got every kind of device and gizmo out there on the highway, and they're checking all of the contents of both the cars that they pulled over. And the 3 individuals that they said that they weren't arrested, but they're being detained. Hopefully they're like pulling out their fingernails to get the real answers out of them. Not that we want to go too far, but here's our poll question today, Eric. I want to give the poll question early so Eric can go off and enjoy a lovely brunch and a great weekend. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? That's our poll question. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? I've got 6 choices for you. Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, Yasser Arafat, Ariel Sharon, George W. Bush, or the Pope. Now, don't you think that's a good bunch of choices there?
How is the Pope dangerous?
Dangerous? You're starting to sound like W now.
W.
How is the Pope dangerous? It's only a 4-hour show, and we got a late start because Mo had a lot of heavy football stuff on there this morning. Plus, we had to find out that Don Bailey Jr.'s got a urinal in his house. It would be one thing if it was in the bathroom, but it's like in the living room. But that DBJ, he's got a great sense of humor. How is the Pope dangerous? Come on, you don't ask that question, please. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, Yasser Arafat, George W. Bush, Ariel Sharon, and the Pope. And see, when Miguel asked that, I forgot that he was a brainwashed Catholic. Okay, Reno says she's ready for a fight. Even as evidence mounted that perhaps thousands of votes in Dade County had not been counted. It just gets crazier and crazier, man. There's no end to it. Like all the other elections now we're going to have in South Florida, they just never end. They go on forever until everybody gets worn out from counting fatigue. In spite of that, Bill McBride declared victory last night as the Democratic nominee for governor. But Janet Reno, who appeared to lose by just 8,100 votes, girded for a fight to preserve her candidacy, and she said the rights of voters to have their voices heard. The standoff created a harsh new reality for Democratic Party leaders just 2 months ago before they hoped to unseat Governor Jeb Bush, pitting the party's hierarchy's favored son against a populist icon revered by core Democratic voters who feel disenfranchised, and those people are too stupid to understand that she can't win the general election. We won, as you all know, McBride told supporters in Tampa, just before Reno told the TV audience that she would not concede. McBride said, we won 59 out of 67 counties. That's amazing. The only problem for him, though, is he got walloped in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach and Monroe counties. I mean walloped. In perhaps the most critical county of all choosing the nominee, in Dade, elections officials realized to their horror yesterday that untold hundreds or thousands of votes may not have been counted. Doesn't that surprise you? A review of just 4 of 81 disputed precincts turned up 1,818 uncounted votes, prompting Reno advisors to put the brakes on any kind of concession. Not so fast, cowboy. If the county decides to examine all 7,200 voting machines, a distinct possibility, officials said, Reno could pick up enough votes to narrow the gap. She won about 70% of the votes cast in Dade on Tuesday. In remarks delivered just moments after McBride's victory speech, Reno congratulated her rival on a great campaign, but put her position in stark terms. I think it's very important that we get the votes counted and the people's voices heard through their votes, she said. She blamed the voting problems on the governor, who spent most of the day yesterday deflecting the blame back onto the Democrats who oversee elections in the counties with the biggest problems, Dade and Broward, of course, Pinga Pequeña in Dade, and Supervisor of Elections Miriam Oliphant in Broward, who needs to be fired right away, by the way. Bush said it's not his problem, but he's chief executive of the state. There are no laws more important in the state than election laws, she said, Reno. I'm going to do everything I can as governor, as a private citizen, to see that the electoral system works in the state so people will have confidence in it, said Janet. In stark contrast to Reno's focus on voters' rights, McBride barely alluded to the election chaos, voter irregularities, and his opponent's refusal to concede. What we need to do now, he said, is unite, get together with the real business at hand. So this is not what the Democrats wanted at all. They wanted, a united front. They don't want divisiveness, et cetera, and so on. But no matter what happens, it seems that there's this Democratic death wish in the state of Florida, especially in South Florida. So she's, going to fight it out. And, of course, the votes have to be certified on this coming Tuesday. So if they redo the Dade votes and it comes to find out that I can't conceive of how she can make up that many votes. The only thing is if she makes up about 1,500 votes to get the margin under 6,700, then it's an automatic statewide recount. And then, of course, it's up for grabs. Then God only knows what kind of chaos we're going to have. Here's this editorial in today's Canadian National Post. It's just amazing that there are people who can actually tell it like it is. It's Andy Lamy writes, "Why stop at pot? Legalize all drugs." Oh, this isn't an editorial. It's a column. But nevertheless. 3 cheers for unelected senators. Last week they released a report stating that Canada's marijuana laws waste enormous resources, destroy the lives of drug users, infringe on civil liberties, foster organized crime, and do absolutely nothing to stop people from getting high. Inevitably, critics were quick to offer the usual objections in response to the senators' call for legalization. As a parent, Canadian Alliance leader Stephen Harbour observed, "I simply don't share the view that alcohol is more harmful than marijuana." For their part, the Globe and Mail and National Post published cringing, wishy-washy editorials calling for decriminalization rather than outright legalization. See, this is not an editorial, it's a column, by Andy Lamy. The sole problem with the committee's recommendations is that they apply only to cannabis. When it comes to drugs, the only humane policy is to legalize them all. Ecstasy, cocaine, heroin, PCB. Prohibition has failed in equal measure for all of those substances. Prohibition has enormous social cost and does more harm than good. It's time to junk the entire approach. Prohibitionists say legalization would trigger massive increases in drug consumption and addiction. This reflects an extremely simplistic understanding of the relationship between legalization and usage. As the Senate committee notes, in regard to cannabis use among the young, we have not legalized cannabis, and we have one of the highest rates in the world. Countries adopting a more liberal policy have, for the most part, rates of usage lower than ours, which stabilized after a short period of growth. Similarly, heroin use is almost 3 times higher in the ultra-prohibitionist United States than it is in freewheeling Holland. The idea that legalization means epidemic consumption is mostly hysteria. Of those who do try drugs, many, perhaps most, experiment in their youth and then stop. Of those who do keep using, the majority do so without becoming addicted. 2 years ago, Ottawa citizen journalist Dan Gardner obtained a 1995 World Health Organization study on cocaine, the most extensive ever conducted, and quoted one of its key findings. Occasional cocaine use, not intensive or compulsive consumption, is the most typical pattern of cocaine use. Such findings so discredited America's drug policy that it threatened to withhold WHO funding, and the report was never released. As for actual addicts, prohibition only compounds their misery. Someone with a drug problem doesn't need a jail sentence, he needs help. The Senate report notes that 90% of government spending related to drugs is devoted to enforcement. That leaves only 10% for things like addiction treatment and harm reduction programs, where anti-drug dollars would be better spent. Several studies have documented that when addicts overdose, other users who are present frequently don't call 911 out of fear they'll be arrested. Prohibition is a direct factor in such preventable deaths. That's not the only area where prohibition kills. As Gardner wrote in 2000, from 1920 to 33, the years of alcohol prohibition in the U.S., about 800 gangsters died fighting each other in the streets of Chicago. In just the last 2 years in Tijuana, 1,000 people have been killed fighting over the drug trade. Tijuana is only an extreme example of a phenomenon that takes place around the world. Prohibition creates a black market that gives rise to organized crime and violence, from Quebec's biker wars to inner-city shootings in the U.S. to the destabilization of entire Latin American countries. Only removing the control of drugs from criminals will address the root problem. This is one reason why decriminalization doesn't go far enough. Decriminalization means getting caught with drugs results in the equivalent of a traffic ticket rather than arrest, but selling drugs is still illegal, so criminal distribution chains remain completely untouched. Decriminalization also does nothing to address the massive resources that would still be wasted targeting traffickers and ticketing users or the violations of civil liberties prohibition entails. Endless numbers of innocent people are subjected to the indignity of airport strip searches, or worse, thanks to the current drug hysteria. For many of these problems, especially the carnage afflicting Latin America, we can thank the United States and its tragically misguided war on drugs. The U.S. has consistently bullied other countries whenever they've considered liberalizing domestic drug laws. Aid packages have been withheld, official passports denied, threats of trade sanctions issued. In Canada, the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency recently conducted a covert sting operation that involved blatant acts in disregard of Canadian sovereign values and law, as a BC judge ruled in August. All this in the name of a policy that's consistently failed to eliminate drugs. Wars have victims, and the war on drugs is no exception. In recognizing this simple, crushingly obvious truth, the Senate has produced a rare government document that speaks in a voice of moral sanity. Prohibition will always fail. Why are we so afraid to try something else? Writes Andy Lamy in today's National Post.
Oh!
Let's hear it, eh? 927 at 560 WQAM. You know, a lot of things, went out with knickers. For example, the old-fashioned way of shopping for a mattress. You used to have to get in your car, schlep around town, go to all the bedding and department stores to find the one you're looking for and the best deal. Not anymore. You get the combination of all of the above. The best deal and the best price and, of course, the best delivery deal anywhere in the world, and a 30-day in-home comfort guarantee when you buy your new mattress from Dial a Mattress. So throw out the old ideas you had about shopping for a great mattress. Just pick up the phone and call 1-800-MATTRESS. That's all you have to do. You'll talk to somebody who really knows their crap, who'll hook you up with exactly the kind of mattress you want. And when it comes to name brands, that's all they carry. No off-brands, no seconds. They got Serta and Sealy, Simmons and King Coil. And, of course, you pick the day and 2-hour window for delivery any day, 7 days a week when you call Dial a Mattress, like between noon and 2 and 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 2, and, like Lawrence Welk would say. And you get that 30-day in-home comfort guarantee, which lets you sleep on that mattress up to 30 days to make sure it's good for you and your back, and you're getting a great night's sleep every night. So if the old mattress has had it, do what I always do. Pick up that phone right now and call Dial a Mattress. Before the end of the day, they'll be knocking on your door, taking away the crappy old bedding, and setting up the great new one. Call 1-800-MATTRESS, 1-800-MATTRES, or check them out on the web at mattress.com.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560, QAM.
It's Friday, you bastard.
Warning, we have mercilessly taken the following material out of context without endorsement or permission from those depicted. It is our ongoing mission to make everything that is good and decent look as ridiculous as possible. We hope we've reached that goal, or at least made you laugh.
Friends and distinguished guests, simply put, President Bush can read only at the most basic level. I'm working with a variety of organizations to achieve President Bush's great goal, learn basic vocabulary words. Education is a top priority for President Bush, and I presented him with a children's dictionary. I'm proud that my husband, just yesterday, he said kindergarten. Because education brings opportunity, our public schools are open to every child in America. And President Bush, thank you for your help.
And you're so welcome. Okay, so the police have got a suspicious package that they took out of one of those two cars, and it contained medical equipment. Does that tell you anything?
No.
Medical equipment? I'm just passing along. There was no bomb, nothing, Oh, and that can't be. Who is that? Who have they got on CNN?
In our Office of statewide intelligence.
Looked like Brian Andrews in about 30 years.
Was passed on it. Involved a domestic security concern. The information was specific to vehicles and tag numbers that were seen at a location in Georgia. That information was subsequently boloed out to Florida law enforcement. About midnight this morning, the vehicles passed through the toll booth at the west end of Alligator Alley. One of the vehicles flew through the toll booth without paying the toll. We had traffic units on scene from Collier County looking for the vehicles anyway, and they were subsequently stopped. We've been out here ever since in an attempt to clear those vehicles and fully identify the occupants, determine what, if any, threat exists from the vehicles at this point in time, and we've brought a lot of resources in from our domestic security task force to make that happen. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are the suspects in custody and have they been charged?
We are detaining the suspects. They have not been charged at this time. Subsequent to investigation.
Are they cooperating?
Somewhat. They're cooperating.
Have they identified themselves and their nationality?
We have identified the three suspects. We have identified the three suspects.
Are they legal immigrants?
As far as we know, they're all three legal, yes.
Can you tell us anything about where they're from? We heard they might have ties to Chicago.
No, ma'am. We're not going to release any specific information at this point. It's an ongoing investigation. We need to be very careful about what we're doing. They're still in Collier County, yes.
Are they in this location here?
I'm not going to confirm that at this point.
Can you tell us what you found inside the vehicle? It looks like there's a lot of activity with the car.
Those vehicles have not been completely searched at this point in time, so the bottom line is we don't know the answer to that. We're still determining that.
Has any explosive material been found
at this point, no.
These bomb-sniffing dogs, did they alert to some type of substance?
When the vehicles were initially stopped, bomb-sniffing dogs were called to the scene. The dogs did alert on both vehicles, and from that we called the bomb team in from our task force. We have asked for reinforcement resources from Miami-Dade to have some specialized equipment that will help us complete the searches. Those resources just got here. They're part of the Miami Region Domestic Security Task Force, and they'll help us out there.
Were the dogs wrong? Do we know if the dogs were wrong yet?
We don't know.
Are these suspects American?
I'm not going to answer any questions related to their identity.
Do we know if the dogs were wrong?
Any FBI watch list?
Not going to answer anything specific to the suspect at this point.
What would that indicate if the bomb-sniffing dogs didn't alert? At the very least, what would that indicate?
Well, there's a possibility that some accelerant or some explosive type material could be in the vehicles. That's all it.
Or maybe a can of Alpo.
That's why you do a search afterwards to verify that.
On what grounds are you holding these people, and how long can you hold them before they are charged?
We're holding them subsequent to the investigation. Once we clear the vehicles, we'll make a determination as to what, if any, charges will be filed, and proceed from there.
Can you confirm? Say, though, is how long you can hold them?
Can you confirm the genesis of this in Georgia with some individuals?
It's E.J. Piccolo from the FDLE.
I'll only pass on the information came from Georgia, and it was very specific, yes.
From an overheard conversation?
Not going to be specific about that, but I will tell you it was the information we had was specific. The vehicles were identified by color, by tag number, so we had very specific information.
Okay, good for you. Okay, so they don't really know that much. They got the three, and he doesn't want to tell us that they're from the Middle East, even though before the story, the initial story said that they appeared to be Middle Eastern. But then a lot of people appear to be Middle Eastern, right? There probably people could confuse Miguel for being Middle Eastern, I would think.
Some would.
Especially when you have that growth, you know? That gruesome growth. So anyway, we'll, keep on top of it. And South Florida's always, remember back in the beginning when we had the... that's not it. That's not what I wanted. You know what I wanted?
You love that song.
I do love that, but the problem is we can't play that. You think that maybe that's probably part of the conspiracy, too, the fact that came up. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that everything between the election on Tuesday and between when they found the original
anthrax
in Boca and every goddamn thing that comes down the pike, and the fact that almost all of the terrorists lived in around South Florida at one point for some period of time, and now we have this. Now we have this threat on the alley. Anyway, like I said, we'll keep our eye on it. I'm going to do the break a little bit early, okay, because we got behind in the beginning, and unfortunately, when you get behind it, I mean, it's one thing to go a minute over. What did they go over, like 15 minutes, something like that on the Mo Show this morning, because they had that guy who's got the same agent as Jay Fiedler, and they were trying to do him a favor even though nobody knows who he is. Something like that. I don't know. Mo had a little problem getting the show off this morning. And when you get to be that age, a lot of guys have trouble getting off. 9:38, and then, once we get a little ahead of ourselves, then we'll have time for fun and games. We got 19 votes on the poll. The poll is up on neilrogers.com. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? The Pope 1, Ariel Sharon 1, Yasser Arafat 1, Osama Yamama bin Laden 4, Saddam Hussein 5, and George W 7.
Oh!
Let's hear it. Hey, let me tell you about something that's really good for you, okay? And that's Oleomed, a soft gel capsule. It's got the most pure, the best, the most phenomenal olive oil in there that money can buy anywhere. And along with that, there's other good stuff for you. Oleomed contains vitamins and minerals and herbals, and they make a different product to promote health for different parts of your body. There's an Oleomed capsule designed to help your prostate, one for your heart, your blood pressure, your cholesterol. Oleo's also got supplements to promote health in your circulatory system, your digestive, your endocrine system, your skin and bones, even your mind, all using the benefits of pharmaceutical-grade olive oil. And Oleomed's got products for men and some specifically designed for women as well. Pick some up today. It's available all over town. You'll find it at Walgreens, at Whole Food Markets, Navarro Pharmacy, at Sedano's. It's an exciting, stupendous new product that's helping lots and lots of people stay healthy. If you want to find out more information about what it does and how it works, call Oleomed toll-free at 1-866-OLEOMED. That's 1-866-OLEOMED. And you can order their products on their website, too, at oleomedamerica.com.
Live and local. This is 560. The radio's all yours now. QAM.
Florida sucks. Less talk and more action.
Stay in there on that football field.
All my life, I had had a secret ambition to play football. Action. Action.
Go, 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 go.
Less conversation, more action. Control the action.
And look at him go. He could go all the way. Touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
I can't just sit here. It's time for action.
We're gonna win. Fight, 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 fight. Action.
Action. Less conversation, more action. Go where the action is.
Well, I like school, and I like football, and I'm going to keep doing them both because they make me feel good.
Action.
9:43 at 560 WQM. 44 votes on the poll. Well, who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? One for Arafat, two for Sharon, three for the Pope, and you are poo-pooing the Pope.
Poo-poo the Pope.
Yeah, don't. Hey, when you get to be in his age and you're in his physical condition, you probably poo-poo a lot, not necessarily in the right place. The Pope's got 3, Osama Yamama's got 8, Saddam Hussein 9, and George W.'s got 21. 21. Of course,
poor guy.
When he gets now, who do you think I voted for? Anyway, here's this article from London Times today, written by Robin Shepard in Moscow. U.S. tempts Russia with profits of ousting Saddam. As President Bush demanded action from the United Nations against Iraq, a U.S. emissary was lobbying for support in Russia, the one member of the UN Security Council that might block approval for the use of force. John Bolton, the Undersecretary of State, was officially in Moscow to discuss non-proliferation, but officials said privately that Iraq was at the top of his agenda. A Russian veto would force the U.S. and Britain to reconsider their plans to oust President Saddam Hussein or to wage a lone military campaign against Iraq. Diplomats and analysts are far from certain that Russia will agree to the use of force, despite President Putin's rapport with Mr. Bush. They said that economic factors will be a key argument, with a promise that Russia will be offered big contracts in the rebuilding of a post-war Iraq at the top of the list of incentives. The Soviet Union was largely responsible for the development of Iraq's military and industrial infrastructure, and Russian firms would be well placed to help modernize it once Saddam is gone. Some experts argue that Russia's recent announcement of a £26 billion investment program, that's like about $40 billion, in Iraq should have been seen as nothing more than brinksmanship, Russia's way of naming the price for its support. We view the program as Russia staking out its claim to any post-war deal, Paul Lewis, a Russian and Eastern European specialist at the Economist Intelligence Unit in London, said. They also say that Russian oil companies are likely to benefit from investment opportunities if Saddam is removed, and Iraq's £5 billion debt to Moscow is much more likely to be paid, as Alexander Vershbow, the U.S. ambassador, suggested this week. Washington could throw in some incentives of its own, such as easier access to American markets and help in entering the World Trade Organization. One problem is that Russia has heard it all before. Senior Russian politicians have been increasingly vocal in arguing that the post-Cold War relationship between Russia and America has been nothing but one-way traffic. Russia has pulled out of Vietnam and Cuba, backed down over NATO's plans to admit the Baltic states of the former Soviet Union, and kept quiet when U.S. unilaterally pulled out of the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty. The U.S. Congress has failed to reciprocate by, for example, lifting Cold War-era trade restrictions such as the Jackson-Vanik Amendment, a double humiliation since its terms no longer apply even to China. In addition, Russia still has no firm timetable for WTO membership. Another problem is that Russia already does well out of its relationship with Saddam. Russian industry is a prime beneficiary of the UN Oil for Food program and is able to capitalize on a variety of industrial projects in Iraq that will be opened up to fierce foreign competition should Saddam be ousted. Moreover, if a new Iraqi regime decided to turn on its oil taps, the price of oil could plummet, which would hurt the Russian economy considerably. With elections in 2004, this is a factor that Mr. Putin can't afford to ignore. It's likely, therefore, that the price of Moscow's support will be higher than the mere encouragement it's received so far. President Putin warned the UN Security Council yesterday that Russia may soon launch its own war against terrorism in Georgia with the aim of hunting down Chechen guerrillas. That's not Georgia as in the U.S., by the way, folks. That's Georgia like in the former Soviet Union. Mr. Putin sent a message to the Council's 4 other permanent members as well as to Kofi Annan, the UN Security General, saying that Russia would take adequate measures if Georgia failed to reestablish control of its Pankisi Gorge region near the border with Chechnya. Chechen rebels have used the area as a base throughout their 3-year war with Russia. Moscow's uneasy relations with Georgia have threatened to break down over the issue. If Georgia fails to take concrete steps to destroy the terrorists and they continue to attack us from its territory, then Russia, in strict compliance with international law, will take adequate measures for averting the terrorist threat, Mr. Putin said in his message. However, he added that Russia had no intention of bringing about a change of government in Tbilisi. How do you say that, Miguel? Tbilisi?
How is it again?
Exactly. The Russian media speculated that Moscow and Washington have reached an agreement in which Mr. Putin would turn a blind eye to any U.S. operation in Iraq, provided Mr. Bush does the same over Georgia. How do you like that, huh? And you think it's a coincidence that these scumbags over there in on the alley, that they came from Georgia? Or at least that's where they started their journey anyway.
Mighty coincidence.
Yeah.
Car, inch by inch.
You know, I would love to know, Paula, what is on the ground on the shoulder of that highway, because that robot is moving in. The arm on the top is moving toward it. What is on the ground?
Are you watching that robot?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
A lot of equipment essentially set up on the side of the road, but that's...
And it looks like the robot's got a tail.
Right here. One would assume that these are articles and items that have been taken out either the trunk of the car or from inside the
Very
car.
Very good, Bill. One would certainly
assume
that, wouldn't you?
The process continues. Nothing untoward is what Mark Potter reported.
Nothing untoward. Okay, have you got that? Here's something untoward. Gay dolls banned in the U.S.
Oh!
The first talking gay dolls in American history have just been banned in San Francisco. The group responsible, GLM, George Little Management, has also squashed release of these dolls in Atlanta, Dallas, Seattle, Boston, and New York. GLM claims gay dolls are offensive to the straight conservative business community. When JDK Products released their first 2 talking gay dolls, Elton and Marshall, they never dreamed that the business leaders in 5 major cities in the U.S. would be so intolerant of the gay lifestyle. Says Frank Macon, a spokesman for JDK Products, this was a classic case of 2 gay men not being allowed to come out of the closet. George Little Management, the organizer for most of the gift trade shows in America, banned the dolls from being exhibited at any of its shows. This decision effectively denied the retail establishment from ever seeing them. Mike Dean, president of Western Exhibitors, which jointly runs a San Francisco gift show with GLM, claimed these dolls would offend too many people. Says Macon, these are funny dolls which say funny things. With all the problems the gay community is having with its acceptance, it's a shame that George Little Management has decided to contribute to that discrimination. The dolls are hugely popular in Europe and have sold over 75,000 pieces in less than 3 months. They're even given away as prizes on game shows, but certain organizations in the USA seem determined to block their release in this country. There's nothing worse than a goddamn gay doll. You know what I'm saying?
What does one look like?
As a matter of fact, probably Carlos. Not you, Carlos. Probably Freaky Carlos. Let's call him Ugly Chuck, okay? Just Chuck. The ugly part was George is doing, okay, because George is hoping to try to, make everybody else uglier than he is. We'll call him Chuck, because if we call him Carlos, they're going to think that Freaky Carlos has got something to do with this show, and that would be the last thing we'd want. You know what I'm saying? The last thing we want. So the first package that they found in the 2 cars contained medical equipment. They're not telling us exactly what kind of medical equipment, whether it was like syringes or whether there's something we might be suspicious about. You know what I'm saying? They're not telling us that. Before we do anything else, because I'm going to forget about it, yesterday Bill Schneider on CNN had a pretty interesting piece when they were talking about the motivation for why GW seems to be so hell-bent on invading Iraq right now.
Some people are asking, is President Bush's Iraq offensive being driven by the fall election, an idea the vice president calls reprehensible?
The suggestion that I find reprehensible is the notion that somehow, we saved this, and now we just sprung it on them for political reasons.
But people in very high places are warning that a life-and-death policy like Iraq
must not be a simple matter of political convenience.
What's the political convenience? Strategist Dick Morris spelled it out in a recent column. Polls show that only one issue works in Bush's favor: terrorism. Does Morris think the president is, as they say, wagging the dog to divert attention from other issues? He doesn't need to wag the dog, Morris writes. He just needs to talk about wagging it to make the impact to keep control of Congress. Even the White House has hinted at a political strategy as long ago as last January.
We can also go to the country on this issue because they trust the Republican Party to do a better job of protecting and strengthening America's military might and thereby protecting America.
Why did the administration wait until September to make its case against Iraq? White House Chief of Staff Andrew Card told the New York Times, from a marketing point of view, you don't introduce new products in August. In his speech to the United Nations, President Bush tried to shut down the political speculation. This is a life and death matter, the president insisted.
Should Iraq acquire fissile material, it would be able to build a nuclear weapon within a year.
To those who say, we want more evidence that there's a real threat, the administration says, we can't wait for a smoking gun to turn up.
We don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud.
To those who smell politics, the administration's answer is, sure, a crisis may benefit the president politically. So what? An issue of this magnitude should be the focus of a political campaign. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? That was Bill Schneider on CNN yesterday, the political analyst of CNN. Meanwhile, the men were planning to attack Miami today, says a witness.
And the other two words he used were Islamic writing. And then he went on to explain that he just had no idea for sure what that was. And then the other items he said that they saw were books and laptop computers. Now, I don't know that they've gone through those as part of the 25% that's been sourced. They've seen those.
You heard that? Some of the materials that contained in the two cars that they pulled over.
And once again, let's
Islamic
review
writing.
for folks just joining us, Mark, how no one should jump to the conclusion about these dogs alerting to these vehicles. That means simply, and we know that no explosive material has been found at this point. That means simply at some point in time that an accelerant may have been in one of these vehicles. It does not necessarily mean these vehicles.
Did she say vehicles? She said it again. Anyway, Dana Priest and Joby Warwick in today's Washington Post write, observers say evidence for war lacking. Report against Iraq holds little that's new. The White House document released yesterday is evidence that it's time to overthrow Saddam Hussein is a concise summary of his regime's abuses of Iraqis and its past use or possession of chemical and biological agents. But it contains little new information and no bombshells showing that Hussein is producing new weapons of mass destruction or is joined with terrorists to threaten the U.S. or its interests abroad. Administration officials seeking to persuade the public, Congress, and foreign allies that it's time to go to war had indicated recently that their strongest case rested on evidence of Iraq's weapons of mass destruction program and its efforts to develop ballistic missiles to launch them beyond its borders. But experts on Iraq's weaponry say that on this subject the report, with few exceptions, recycles a mix of dated and largely circumstantial evidence that Hussein may be hiding the ingredients for these weapons and is seeking to develop a nuclear capability and to weaponize chemical and biological agents. The 20-page paper, A Decade of Deception and Defiance, concludes Iraq harbors stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons it created before the 1991 Persian Gulf War, as well as a limited number of missiles and other systems for delivering them. The stockpile includes highly lethal VX, a nerve agent so potent that a few drops on the skin can kill, as well as anthrax and other staples of germ warfare. The report concludes that Iraq retains the expertise and infrastructure to build new weapons and is seeking to acquire critical parts and supplies. On Iraq's nuclear program, it repeats a British think tank's finding last week that Iraq could likely build a nuclear weapon within a few months, but only if it managed the difficult feat of acquiring enriched uranium from an outside source. The bulk of the report's assertions were attributed to reports by UN weapons inspectors who scoured Iraq for outlawed weapons programs from 1991 to 98. Although the inspectors destroyed large amounts of weaponry and equipment, they were unable to account for all the chemical and biological warheads and bombs Iraq has admitted making. They disputed Iraq's claims that it destroyed the weapons to hide evidence. Other claims in the report were attributed to Iraqi defectors. There was surveillance imagery that showed new construction in places where Iraq once manufactured weapons. Weapons experts who reviewed the document noted a few previously undisclosed details, such as a new test platform repeatedly built for longer-range missiles, but several expressed surprise at the lack of fresh revelations. Given the high priority for knowing what's going on in Iraq, I'm stunned by the lack of evidence or fresh intelligence, said Gary Milholland, executive director of Iraq Watch, a Washington-based nonprofit institution that tracks developments in Iraq's weapons program. You'd expect that for the many billions we're spending on intelligence, they'd be able to make factual assertions that would not have to be footnoted to an open source. So in other words, not much. What we got is not much. And that's just like what we got this morning on this business on the Alligator Alley. Not much. They've detained the 3 men. They're holding them. They found Islamic writing on papers inside. They found the briefcase with medical supplies, or at least a backpack, and a bunch of other stuff. And they've got the bomb squad robot is out there diddling around. And they've got all kinds of tents set up there. They've got a 20-mile stretch of Alligator Alley shut down. When in doubt, shut it out. 9:56 at 560 WQM. Our poll, 85 votes. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? Yes, sir. I'm a fart's got 3. Ariel Sharon has got 6.
Oi!
The Pope has got 7. Osama Yamama bin Laden 14. Saddam Hussein 21. And GW's got 34. You know, Castaway Seafood Company really knows seafood. They pride themselves on serving you the freshest seafood available. Fresh fish that's never frozen, prepared the way you like it, grilled, blackened, or broiled. And George just can't stop raving about how great it is. Call him up at home and see if it's still that good. Better yet, don't call him at home. Anyway, signature Castaway dishes include sesame seared tuna, cracked conch, and unbelievable homemade chowders. Castaways also features grilled certified Angus beef, burgers, filet mignon, humongous, gigantic, juicy New York strip steaks. Castaways offers great daily lunch, early bird specials. Every Wednesday night is karaoke night and ladies' night with free drinks for the ladies. Join the Castaways tailgate party at the Hogfish Bar for weekend and Monday night football specials while you watch your favorite games, while you watch the Patriots kick some more ass. The Dolphins. The Castaway Seafood Company's got full bar. They're open 7 days a week, and they're located on the southwest corner of University Drive and Griffin Road in Davie. If you're looking to cater your next home or office party, Castaways can do it too. Castaway Seafood Company, seafood so fresh, it'll bite you right on the puss.
We're Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Friday, you bastards.
Alvin, are you okay in there? Wow, I was trying to take my morning tea and felt like I was on fire. Woo-wee! Uh-oh, sounds like you might have an STD. STP? You mean I'm peeing motor oil? No, an STD. You know, a sexually transmitted disease. I bet you got it from that stinky chipmunk who hangs out on the corner. Alvin, did you forget to wrap that rascal? But we only did it once. That's all it takes, you big stud. Now you have to go to the doctor for some medicine. Wow, looks like I learned a valuable lesson today. When your thing is killing, take some penicillin. Then it won't burn when I pee.
10 o'clock at 560 WQM. Happy Friday to you. Now, let me ask you, you didn't give, now, who got the Bills tickets? The Bills Dolphin tickets? Did Joe get those, or did you get them?
Joey got them.
I see. Now, he didn't give them to Fat Boy, did he?
No, I believe he gave them to somebody else.
Oh, and that's even better.
Oh!
That's even better. He gave them away, but he gave them away to somebody else. Nice going, Joe. Always liked him. Nicholas Kristoff writes in the New York Times today, and I'm keeping and as a matter of fact, you better keep your eye on it, too, okay?
Okay.
And feel free, to jump right in, interrupt me in mid-sentence if you see something, because it's hard to keep an eye, one eye on the page and one eye off to the right on my little TV.
You got it.
You got it. See, there's another one of those comments. We understand where you're coming from. The Guns of September, writes Nicholas Kristoff in the New York Times today. President Bush, and by the way, speaking of that, I'm working on Monday, and so is the Humper.
Oh!
Yeah, we're both working on Monday. We're not going to put on that professional Jew routine. There'll be no Mo, no Gildy, no Eddie K, I'm sure, but some of us, the fat old Jews, we work on the Jew holidays, including me and the Humper on Monday.
I'll take the day for the both of you.
Okay. Hey, listen, are you getting paid today?
What do you think?
For this? President Bush yesterday offered an eloquent, forceful, and overdue call for the UN to hold Saddam Hussein accountable, writes Nicholas Kristoff in the Times today. Just one problem. He cited no evidence of any immediate threat, no reason that invading Iraq is any more urgent today than it was in, say, 2000, when Mr. Bush as a candidate huffed and puffed about Saddam but never shared with voters any plans for an invasion. For months, there have been hints about intelligence that the administration supposedly has gathered about an imminent Iraqi threat and links to terrorism, so it was deflating to hear again that Saddam is a monster whose regime tortures children in front of parents, all true as it was a decade ago. Contrast Mr. Bush's appearance with a legendary moment at the United Nations. On October 25, 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Ambassador Adlai Stevenson denounced the new Russian missile sites in Cuba. The Russians and Cubans scoffed that it was all a lie, so Stevenson brought in an easel and blown-up photos of the Cuban sites. Where is the comparable evidence of urgency today? It's the Bush administration that raised the parallel of the missile crisis, noting that Kennedy had considered preemptive strikes. Fair enough, yet it's the differences that are the most telling. To begin with, Kennedy used the UN spotlight to offer specific, incontrovertible evidence of an urgent new threat, and then he opted not for an invasion of Cuba, but for an internationally supported naval quarantine. Yes, Kennedy did consider a lot of alternatives, including military strikes. We called Theodore Sorensen, a key aide to Kennedy during the crisis. But after considering the innocent civilians who would be killed, considering the international law that would be broken, Kennedy rejected that possibility. President Kennedy was deeply conscious that wars can slip out of control, and during the crisis, he read Barbara Tuchman's Guns of August. Mr. Sorensen recalls Kennedy telling aides that he didn't want future generations asking how the missile crisis had spiraled into war and nobody having a good answer. In his speech yesterday, President Bush displayed Kennedy's toughness, resolve, and even eloquence, but he did not display the other qualities of statesmanship, humility about the risks of miscalculation, a passion to avoid war. Graham Allison, a professor at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government who's written a book about the missile crisis, noted that Kennedy had stipulated that the missiles absolutely had to be removed from Cuba. But Kennedy turned first to diplomacy and a blockade. He offered the Russians a graceful exit and thus saved lives and avoided a dangerous spin into the unknown. Today as well, why shouldn't war be a last resort instead of the first tool that President Bush grabs off the shelf? The fundamental question is left unanswered. Why initiating war against Saddam is better than the next option, which is deterring and containing him, Professor Allison said. You could agree that this is an evil guy, he is evil, who defied the UN resolutions, he did, and still ask why he's not susceptible to the same treatment that was used against Stalin, who was also evil and dangerous and cheated. A succession of presidents chose to deter and contain Stalin rather than invade and occupy Russia, just as every president until now has chosen to deter and contain Saddam. Before launching a war, Mr. Bush needs to show two things. First, that the threat is so urgent that letting Iraq fester is even riskier than invading it and occupying it for many years to come. Second, that deterrence will no longer be successful in containing Saddam. How would JFK have handled Iraq? As a believer in the UN, he would have done everything he could with U.S. muscle to get UN inspectors in there, Mr. Sorensen believes. Such a Kennedy-esque approach built around robust international inspections backed by the threat of force as a last resort would also reduce the political fallout of war if it eventually erupted. Unfortunately, we still have not heard from Mr. Bush as a compelling case for the one course of action on which he seems fixated, immediate war, writes Nicholas Kristof in today's New York Times. Another dead football player, high school player, dies after game. Corpus Christi, Texas, a high school football player died after collapsing following a freshman game. Stephen Puente of King High School was shaking hands with opponents from Ray High School after the Wednesday night game. When he fell to the ground unconscious, the Nueces County Medical Examiner was to conduct an autopsy later today. Several Ray football players said the 15-year-old Puente, who played running back and linebacker for nearly the entire game, seemed short of breath in the second half. When I would tackle him, I could hear him breathing really hard and kind of funny, Ray player John Justice told the Christie Caller Times. I'd tackle him, then get up, and he'd just be lying on the ground, breathing really, really hard, like he was gasping for air. It just seemed like something was really wrong for him. I guess it's a good thing they let him finish the game, huh? Boy, it seems now like we got one every day.
Too young for that.
I beg your pardon?
15 years old. You don't have to be playing so hard.
There was no audio on the tape, so on the website, so it's kind of hard to tell. Maybe our Mark Potter knows more about that. Let's check in with Mark. Mark's been following this for quite a bit this morning, and he's checking in right now to give us the very latest. Mark, are you there?
Yeah, Leon, and I can answer your question about the very thing you're talking about, what they did with that package. And this information comes from Mike Oler, who's with the Southwest Florida Regional Bomb Squad. It's an umbrella group that represents a number of different agencies. Mike said that they had a package in one of these cars that they were suspicious of. They took an X-ray device and looked at it, and they couldn't quite accept what they were seeing. They had thought that a number of the devices were benign, but this one had some wires in it, and they were worried about that. So they used a device that they described as a water cannon and used a technique that they call water stress to blow apart the package with water. They didn't fire into it. They didn't blow it up. And when they were done with the procedure, they came to learn that it was some medical equipment. It was not any sort of safety threat. It was not a bomb device. It was medical equipment. And the advantage of using this water system is that you only use water. You don't destroy the device to the degree that you would if you fired into it or blew it up.
Okay, Mark, thank you so much. Nothing really new. They're just filling time, and they keep showing us the picture of that one of the two cars there on the alley, and the bomb squad robot, which is pretty neat to watch that little thing. You know, wouldn't you like to have one of those at home?
Pretty cool.
Sure. Don't forget, in a few minutes, I'm going to read just a little bit from the introduction and forward to this book, Forbidden Truth, by Jean-Charles Broussard and Guillaume Dasquet. U.S. Taliban secret oil diplomacy and a failed hunt for bin Laden. Just they always use this word chilling. Everything on the news, a chilling moment. Yeah, this is pretty chilling. In fact, you ought to tell all your chillins about it. Martha Mendoza, this is one of the best stories of the day. City plans protest with pot giveaway.
All right.
Santa Cruz, California. And we had the original story on this a week or two ago about the fact that the federal government went in there into a town where they've legalized medical marijuana, and the federal government says, oh, you can't do that, and they busted this joint and closed it down. And anyway, city leaders plan to join medical marijuana users at a pot giveaway at City Hall next week, hoping to send a message to federal authorities that in this town, medical marijuana is welcome. Joey Zaza going to send me a message? Oh, that's right. Did you see Godfather 3?
Of course.
Oh, remember that? Joey Zaza is going to send me a message. I'll send him a message. Anyway, the invitation comes a week after agents from the DEA arrested the high-profile owners of a pot farm and confiscated 130 plants that had been grown to be used as medicine. It's just absolutely loathsome to me that federal money, energy, and staff time would be used to harass people like this, said Vice Mayor Emily Riley, who, along with several city council colleagues, plans to pass out medical marijuana to sick people from the garden-like courtyard at City Hall this coming Tuesday. Though the council passed a resolution denouncing the raid, there is no official city sponsorship of the event. Council members and medical marijuana advocates are simply acting on their own in a public space, said City Attorney John Barrasone. DEA spokesman Richard Meyer was surprised at the plan. Are you serious? That's illegal. It's like they're flouting federal law, he said. I'm shocked that city leaders would promote the use of marijuana that way. What is that saying to our youth? It's saying that you're a bunch of assholes is what they're saying, okay, Dick? State law in California, as well as Alaska, Colorado, Hawaii, Maine, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington, allows marijuana to be grown and distributed to people with a doctor's prescription. Federal law prohibits marijuana use under any circumstances. And, of course, we know that the federal government doesn't have more fish to fry than at this particular time, better things to be doing. In recent months, federal agents working with local support have been busting pot clubs and farms in Northern California, including a small pot farm last week about 55 miles south of San Francisco, arresting owners Valerie and Michael Corral. No indictment was filed against the couple leading activists for medical marijuana. Their attorney said federal authorities don't plan to prosecute. A spokeswoman for the U.S. Attorney's Office said she couldn't comment. California medical marijuana growers and distributors work closely with local law enforcement and are quite open about their programs. In fact, the farm raided by DEA agents had been featured in national media, and the program is listed in the local telephone book. The courage of the Santa Cruz City Council and the growing anger in Congress are signs of a genuine grassroots rebellion all across this country that will put an end to these attacks on the sick and vulnerable, said Robert Campia, executive director of the Washington, D.C.-based Marijuana Policy Project. In 1992, 77% of Santa Cruz voters approved a measure ending the prohibition of medical marijuana. 4 years later, state voters approved Proposition 215, allowing marijuana for medicinal purposes. And in 2000, the City Council approved an ordinance allowing medical marijuana to be grown and used without a prescription. So there you go. The state, the local government, passing all kinds of resolutions, overwhelming support from the public, and the federal government, the freaking DEA, because they have to justify their continuing existence, they're going in there and busting the pot farms and arresting people, and they're not even bothering to charge them. It's just, just something to do. Just putting on a good dog and pony show. Look at how we're protecting the youth of our country. Right. That article I read from the National Post, that's one of the best damn things I've ever seen in my life. Of course, it makes a little bit too much sense. Don't confuse America's drug policy and the so-called war on drugs with common sense, or with what really works.
Department correspondent joining us now from our D.C. bureau to tell us more about the FBI involvement and perhaps more information on the three suspects who are in custody. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning, Darren. Why don't we start with what we have at least confirmed through a variety of law enforcement sources. Let's start off with the fact that we have confirmed that there was a conversation that was overheard in a restaurant in Calhoun, Georgia, by a patron who was there with her son. She called that information in to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. That is the state version of the FBI. There was a BOLO put out, which is a be on the lookout for these two vehicles. There was a very good description of the vehicles and license plate tags that was given to law enforcement. After one of the cars, we are told, confirmed by law enforcement, blew through a toll booth, a sheriff pulled over one of the vehicles. The other vehicle voluntarily pulled in behind that first vehicle, and the law enforcement officer began some questioning. There were 3 individuals who had been taken into custody, are being questioned by members of the Joint Terrorism Task Force. As we all see, there are 2 vehicles also in custody. When, as we have heard Mark Potter report, the bomb squad dogs were brought, they did react to something in the vehicles. Now, I have been cautioned by the FBI that those dogs are primarily trained to react to black powder. Black powder can be found, as Mark has also said, in fireworks. It can be found in shells for hunting. So there could have been at some point It's something as innocuous as a hunting rifle in that vehicle that the dogs did react to.
Don't be picking on the dogs now.
The bomb squad is being very cautious, has closed off part of that highway to ensure the safety of all involved, civilians as well as law enforcement personnel. And that is going to take some time. I am told that this process that we are watching right now on the screen can take several hours. As for the men in custody, right now, what investigators are trying to do is, one, determine whether or not the identification that has been presented by the individuals is, in fact, real. That they are taking the names that they have at least been presented so far and running them through a variety of intelligence systems to see if there has been any prior intelligence on any of these individuals. You have the INS involved, you have Customs involved, you have FBI involved, and of course, if they do strike a hit on any of these names, there may be an opportunity to involve an overseas agency as well. But right now, they have no information that indicates that any of these individuals has any connection at all to any terrorist organization. Right now, it is an ongoing conversation, interrogation. They are trying to find out what they can at this point. But I am told by a variety of sources that right now they've come up empty so far in terms of having this name hit on any intelligence database that they have run those names through so far.
Assuming those are the real names. Okay, thank you so much. 1013 at 560 WQAM. Delights of West Boca, your official Atkins Diet Retail Center, reminds you that every day of your life, all Atkins brand products are 25% off. Let me say it again, every day. Delights carries the complete line of Atkins Diet products as well as over 500 delicious low-carb and sugar-free foods. As reported recently in the New York Times, on CNN, Newsweek, Dateline NBC, Time Magazine, CBS News, U.S. News and World Report, the Atkins diet continues to be one of today's most popular and successful diets. Low-carb dieting is finally getting around to getting the respect it deserves, and Delights of West Boca has been the leader in low-carb, sugar-free dieting field for years. Over 100,000 of their customers will testify there just ain't no better store, no way, there's no competition, and Delights will not be undersold. And when you go into Delights, you can sample everything in the store if you want before you actually buy it. Try it before you buy it. Delights friendly and knowledgeable staff will walk you through the store, point you in the right direction, show you where P.D. Lenny dropped a little souvenir on the floor, and cheer you on as the pounds come flying off. Don't forget there's only one Delights of West Boca. They're open every day of your life, 7 days a week till 10 p.m., and you'll find them on the northeast corner of Glades Road and 441 in Boca. Call 1-877-LOW-CARB or check them out on that wicked web at lowcarb.com.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Oh, fat ass Rosie, please go away. Find a new way to attack a buffet. Go home and eat your ho-ho till you explode. Just like your fat chudden ladies have to buy 2 seats on a plane, spinning your fingers that have yellow stain from Cheetos. Can't see your toes. Master Piggy Poo knows. Proud to be fat, disgusting, and pasty. Oi! You make the shove-it women smile. They like a gal who's fat and sassy, big smelly fat, so repulsive and vile. Your body cheese smells like a crapper after it was occupied by Ed Asner. Need a shoehorn to get into your car, 'cause you're too goddamn wide. Oink and squeal, oink and squeal, oink and squeal, fat lady. Living with your lover, let's be slobbering and sorting the tree between her knees. Mashed potato heat smells fishy to me. Snapping up a tuna that's moist and tasty. Hey.
1020 at 560 WQM. Happy Friday to you. 143 votes on our poll on NeilRogers.com. We asked today, who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? 5 votes for yes or I'm a fart, 8 for Ariel Sharon, 11 for the Pope, which I'm sure that Miguel is scratching his head wondering how can that be. Osama Yamama bin Laden, aren't you scratching it?
Uh-huh.
In your head, too. Osama, 20, Saddam Hussein, 43, and George W. Bush, 56. Seems to be pulling away. Anyway, here's the introduction from, in fact, this book is so important that there's two introductions. There's a foreword, there's a prologue, and they're all worth the reading. You're right, I might have to read the whole book on air, starting like on Monday.
Go for it.
But then they won't go out there and buy it. Well, you know something? Nobody's going to go. Maybe 10 people out there would go out and buy it anyway. It's called Forbidden Truth by Jean-Charles Brissard and Guillaume Desquet. Introduction. The introduction is written by, at least the first introduction, written by Joseph Trento, author of The Secret History of the CIA, managing director of the National Security News Service. He says, Forbidden Truth is the story of the greatest foreign policy blunder of the past 30 years. This important book delves into the aftermath, the blowback of the United States and Saudi Arabian policy of creating an Arab Islamic force to bring down the Soviet Union by marrying it in a war in Afghanistan. Forbidden Truth is the story of how that force turned against its creators with effectiveness and vengeance. In the pages of Forbidden Truth are all the leftovers from this ill-conceived U.S. policy, Saudi frontmen, the ruins of BCCI, Saudi and Pakistani intelligence. They all came together to assist Osama bin Laden in retooling the Arab fighters of the Afghan war into an Islamic Frankenstein. All of this happening under the nose of a CIA unwilling to revisit an array of forces that once had been allies. On September 11, 2001, the world saw 3,000 lives destroyed. President George Bush reacted with confusion, anger, and resoluteness and began to lead the country and a handful of allies into the war on terrorism. The U.S. went into war mode. As a result, everything in government is deferred to the war, especially the truth. Young George Bush did not have the luxury of time to consider if the chickens from his father's foreign policy misadventures had come home to roost. Fortunately for all of us, authors Jean-Charles Brissard and Guillaume Desquet did take the time. The result is the most important explanation of the secret history of how the U.S. came to be attacked and who was responsible. The answers the authors uncovered will and should make you very angry. Many of the same men around young George Bush now played a major role in the original failed scheme. Forbidden Truth is the first comprehensive revelation of how the foreign policy of the president's father and the cozy relationship with the royal family of Saudi Arabia exploited and created an extremist Islamic mercenary army that eventually turned on its creators. In the pages of Forbidden Truth are the awful details that our government understood that the Saudi government was financing bin Laden's al-Qaeda through Islamic charities years before the attacks. Like Shakespearean characters, the evildoers and young American president had a dark thread connecting them, a common benefactor, the Saudi royal family. Their wealth had helped Prescott Bush and his sons grow rich and powerful over the years. It also had kept opposition to the royal family at bay at home by funding for decades the most extreme forms of Islam. Few would imagine that these sophisticated partners, the Bushes and the royal family, would together create the conditions and opportunity for terrorism to grow into a worldwide network. As CIA director, the president's father, George Herbert Walker Bush, joined with the Saudi prince to create a bank for covert operations to fight the Soviets through the Islamic cause in Afghanistan. The Bank of Commerce and Credit International, BCCI, collapsed in scandal, but its personalities and pieces became the vessels and conduits of the terrorist network. These same personalities were George's partners in policy and in some cases private business. The then Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush introduced the bin Laden family to William Casey to help the U.S. win its proxy war in Afghanistan. When the Saudis sided with Kuwait in a long-festering dispute about stealing oil, President Bush turned Saddam Hussein from a friend to a foe. He put the full force of the U.S. with his old friends. The United States fought a war to save two kingdoms. Our reward was that our soldiers and State Department employees were not allowed to publicly worship in Saudi Arabia. Bush lost the presidency, but the Saudis took care of his family. When the scion who would be the next Bush in the White House needed help with Harkin Energy, old friends again came to the rescue. As Bill Clinton dealt with the indifference of the Saudis to their support for Islamist extremists, bin Laden blew up our barracks at Khobar. The Saudis hindered our investigation and denied the truth that bin Laden and his forces had begun to move against the royal family inside Saudi Arabia. Their motivation was money. Their methods came straight from organized crime, extortion. Pay us protection or more threatening faxes will come on the king's private fax line. Then worse, pay us our tribute or the revolution will be at home, not in Afghanistan or at Yemen. The Arab princes and their hangers-on made the decision to pay. Now, nearly a year after the horrors of September 11th and the consequent bombing of Afghanistan, with neither bin Laden or Mullah Omar captured, with more and more Saudis showing up in the terrorist ranks, more bad news, missed signals, missed warnings, the FBI and CIA try to blame each other. The day after the 9/11 attacks, Vice President Cheney called the Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle, trying to talk him out of any major probe into the intelligence failure. There could be no serious investigation because a serious investigation in the end would reveal that money and oil were more important than protecting Saudi Arabia or the United States. A serious investigation would reveal that bankers, politicians, and family friends in business suits support al-Qaeda. A serious investigation would demonstrate that George Bush's father was the midwife to the birth of this monster. A serious investigation would demonstrate that Middle East oil money still helps support members of the Bush family. The real terror for George Bush will come when he reads Forbidden Truth. Forbidden Truth is the only serious investigation available to us up to now. Only then will he finally connect the dots. Perhaps he'll ask his father to come in for that long overdue talk. To be president, you need to know how to handle the guilty knowledge that comes with power. Sadly, Bush has more than his fair share. That's the first introduction by Joseph Trento, who's author of The Secret History of the CIA, managing director of the National Security News Service. Did I miss anything here on CNN?
No.
Oh. 20 miles of Alligator Alley still closed down. Terrorist threat. They're still checking out the 2 cars. They've got the 3 guys in custody. They don't want to say they're of Middle Eastern descent, but the fact is they found Islamic writing in it. Maybe they were just trying to learn Islam. You think so? Islamic writing?
Just practice.
Arabic? Learn Islamic writing. Learn Arabic. See, I got sucked into that by CNN. Well, they say a lot of stuff. 26 after 10 at 560 WQM. You're sick and tired of being taken advantage of by real estate agents and brokers when you're looking to sell your home?
Uh-huh.
If you are, check out SaveRealty.com. Here's how it works. You retain the right to sell your home. You can also show and sell your home to buyers who call you directly. And if you sell your home this way, you pay only 1% in commission, and that's it. SaveRealty.com cooperates with all MLS realtors. You can also show your home to realtors, and if they sell your home, you'll only have to pay the realtor the commission they traditionally charge for bringing you a buyer. The bottom line is you're going to save money. Contact SaveRealty.com on the web at SaveRealty.com or call them directly at this number, 954-788-2660. If you want to stop dealing with real estate agents or brokers when you're selling your home and save plenty of money at the same time, let SaveRealty.com show you how. Log on to SaveRealty.com today. SaveRealty.com, the best and easiest way to sell your home. Here's that number again. Call them at 954-788-2660.
Live and local. We're Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Over here. Bush is a sorry but 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 Cheney said lay off the ventilators. He brought investigations to an end. They were getting too close to the tallow-headed bodies down in Texas for a barbecue again. With Georgian Mom. Bush is a sorry but 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 if they don't impeach this corporate retard, 3,000 lives will never be avenged. Cause you brainwashed monkeys are so goddamn stupid, you'll put them back in office again. Bush is a sorry but 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 members of the ARP. Bush is a sorry but Bush is a sorry but Bush is a sorry but Bush is a sorry but
All right. 10:32 at 560 WQM. Here's a fax. Now, this is one of our chronic regular faxers who's now so chummy with me that he calls me Nelson. How do you like that? Did you notice that on the fax?
Yeah, I did.
Unimpressed. It says, you mentioned celebrities die in threes. You may have to wait 2 weeks, but yesterday singer Warren Zevon of We're All, as if I don't know this. I'm on top of it, baby, okay? No matter what name you call me, got it right here. Singer-songwriter Warren Zevon, best known for quirky hits like Werewolves in London, has been diagnosed with inoperable lung cancer, a spokeswoman said yesterday. I'm on top of it, man. Schmendrick. I'm okay with it, Zevon 55 said in a statement, but it'll be a drag if I don't make it till the next James Bond movie come out. Zevon's more than 3 decades-long career began with Wanted Dead or Alive in 1969. His 1976 album, Warren Zevon, produced by Jackson Browne, won critical praise, and his career soared with 1978's Excitable Boy, featuring the single Werewolves of London, which became his signature song. He ended a 5-year recording absence in 2000 with Life Will Kill Ya. And I guess he was prescient. Spokeswoman Diana Barron said Zevon, who was told of the diagnosis by doctors last month, is spending time with his grown children as well as writing and recording. He'll be in the recording studio next week, she said. Rhino Records will release Genius, the best of Warren Zevon, October 15th. His most recent album, My Rides Here, released this year, features contributions from Irish poet Paul Muldoon, journalist Hunter S. Thompson, and Herald columnist and author Carl Hyacin, as well as a cameo from talk show host David Letterman. How do you like that, huh? You like it?
Interesting.
So anyway, see, there's going to be somebody die before he does. Don't you think?
2 weeks is a long time.
Yeah, we'll have the third member of the trifecta. We had Kim Hunter and who else? Oh, and Johnny and
Johnny
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm just not in football mode right now. You know, I mean, call me silly, but I'm just not in football mode today. I realize that's very un-QAM-ish, but tough crap.
How dare you?
183 votes on the poll. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? We asked today on NeilRogers.com. George W. Bush, he's, I think, got a pretty safe lead, 73. Saddam Hussein, 49. Osama bin Laden, 27. Of course, in Osama's case, there should be an asterisk because we don't know if he's dead or alive. So, see what I'm saying? The Pope, 16, and I think also the same might apply there. Ariel Sharon, 13, and Yasser Arafat's in last place with only 5. Introduction. I did promise I'd read the introductions and the preface and the foreword. Not too many books you read that have 2 introductions, a preface, and a foreword, but in this case, well worth it. Forbidden Truth. This introduction written by Wayne Madsden, Washington correspondent for Intelligence Online. He says, long before the world first heard of the FBI's Minneapolis, Phoenix, and Oklahoma City memoranda on what was known to U.S. law enforcement prior to 9/11, Jean-Charles Broussard and Guillaume Dasquet presented the first French edition of Forbidden Truth, a unique insight into what the U.S. and other governments knew and when they knew it concerning the future plans of bin Laden's al-Qaeda network. After 3 years of painstaking research, the author succeeded in connecting the dots and revealing the behind-the-scenes maneuvering preceding the December 11 terrorist attacks on New York City and Washington, D.C. Especially gripping is the tale of John O'Neill, the former deputy director of the FBI's New York office, who spent years tracking bin Laden and his Confederates. As the chief counterterrorism agent within the Bureau, O'Neill focused on the al-Qaeda network following a series of terrorist attacks aimed at Americans, especially in Saudi Arabia and East Africa. In October 2000, al-Qaeda set off a bomb amidships the USS Cole in Aden Harbor. O'Neill describes his frustrations in dealing with non-cooperative U.S. ambassador to Yemen, who, along with her CIA and State Department interlocutors, were more interested in placating Saudi and American oil interests than bringing the al-Qaeda perpetrators to justice. It's not often that a book provides an unintentional last testament, but in Forbidden Truth, O'Neill provided the authors with his virtual last words on the subject of his investigation of bin Laden's network and his thoughts on cover-ups reaching high into the echelons of political power in Washington, Saudi Arabia, and the oil company headquarters in Texas. On 9/11/2001, after an illustrious career with the FBI, O'Neill died while carrying out his new duties as Director of Security for the World Trade Center. Fortunately, Broussard and Dasquet have provided for the historical record the words that O'Neill may have himself penned had he survived in the 9/11 attack. There's been a general tendency in the media and among America's political and military leaders to begin the al-Qaeda and Taliban timeline on September the 11th. Broussard and Dasquet explode this myth by describing the close economic ties between the Bush and Clinton administrations, U.S. big oil, and the Taliban and their Saudi patrons. In connecting the dots between Taliban-controlled Afghanistan and the U.S., Broussard and Dasquet reveal the main principles involved in negotiating a lucrative but controversial oil and gas pipeline deal with the mullahs of Kandahar. The readers introduced to Layli Helms, an Afghan-American with ties to the former Afghan royal house, the Mujahideen, the Taliban, and most interestingly, the CIA. Her uncle by marriage is former CIA Director Richard Helms. In the weeks prior to the 9/11 attack, Layli Helms was orchestrating high-level meetings between senior members of the Bush administration and emissaries of Mullah Mohammed Omar, the main benefactor of Osama bin Laden. Broussard and Dasquet successfully connect the dots to an even degree. They explain the actual motivation behind the United States 6+2 group, pipeline politics, not the ballyhooed aim of bringing about a ceasefire between the Taliban and their Northern Alliance rivals. The authors revealed that it was at a May 15, 2000 meeting in Berlin that a U.S. official ominously presented the following ultimatum to the Pakistani delegation, who were the Taliban's interlocutors at the meeting. Either you accept our offer of a carpet of gold, or we bury you under a carpet of bombs. It was a statement that would take on even greater meaning after the 9/11 event. When Forbidden Truth was first published in France in November 2001, skeptics inside and outside the U.S. government scoffed at the author's contention that French intelligence had warned the FBI about the terrorist connections and ongoing flight training in the U.S. of Zakaria Arias Moussaoui, the so-called 20th hijacker, who was arrested on a visa violation in Minnesota August 17, 2001. These skeptics were later confronted with incontrovertible validation of this information when FBI Minneapolis Chief Division Counsel Colleen Rowley, a 21-year veteran agent, wrote in a blistering letter to FBI Director Robert Mueller, the French intelligence service confirmed Moussaoui's affiliations with radical Islamic fundamentalist groups and activities connected to Osama bin Laden. She was the whistleblower. Rowley's concerns, along with those spelled out in a July 10, 2001 warning from the Phoenix FBI agent Kenneth Williams concerning the activities of Arab flight students, and a May 1998 report from the Oklahoma City FBI concerning similar flight training by Middle Eastern men in that city, fell into the laps of what Rowley described as flippant FBI bureaucrats in Washington. The FBI headquarters, including 2 special units tasked to investigate religious extremists in bin Laden, the Radical Fundamentalist Unit and the UBI. Respectively, they refused to authorize a full investigation, including critical electronic surveillance of the suspected terrorists. The world of intelligence in which the truth is not always the truth and lies are not always lies has been characterized by some observers as a hall of mirrors. But the failure to connect the dots and fuse and analyze critical intelligence before 9/11 cannot merely be blamed on the staggering nature of analyzing disparate pieces of information from a multitude of oftentimes questionable sources. In addition to the French intelligence that came to senior U.S. law enforcement and intelligence officials, we now know that similar hard intelligence came from the intelligence and police agencies of Egypt, Morocco, Jordan, India, Israel, Russia, Germany, Kazakhstan, Canada, the Cayman Islands, and Italy. The Italian counterterrorism police had recorded a conversation in the summer of 2000 in which a Yemeni sheikh described what sounded like the plans for 9/11, saying an attack was planned that would be one of those strikes you'd never forget, a terrifying thing. It'll move from south to north, from east to west. He who made this plan is a madman, but a genius. It will turn you to ice. Skeptics continue to deride any notion that the Bush administration had advance warning of 9/11, but Broussard and Desquet lay out one of the most important clues in tracking any criminal enterprise, the money trail. It's a trail that connects Osama bin Laden to other members of his family involved with construction and financial projects throughout the world, the so-called good bin Ladens. Yet the links don't merely end with the greater bin Laden family. They involve the House of Saud, the Pakistani Inter-Service Intelligence Agency, and other wealthy Saudi bankers and merchants, Islamic churches and madrasas, U.S. oil tycoons, the U.S. defense contractors like the Carlyle Group. The links even extended to the very heart of the administration and include President George W., a prior recipient of bin Laden family investment money, his father, an advisor to Carlyle and its major client, the bin Laden Group, and Vice President Dick Cheney, a beneficiary of Saudi money largesse as the head of the oil services company Halliburton. While President Bush portrays himself as a leader with a myopic worldview, from referring to Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf during the 2000 presidential campaign as General, and believing he was elected to being under the impression that the Taliban was a Bavarian brass band, his coterie of friends and business partners certainly see the Middle East and South Asia with perfect 20/20 vision. And it's this view that should have alerted them to the dangers of dancing with the likes of the Taliban, corrupt Pakistani generals, and Saudi sheiks. While brave and selfless FBI agents like John O'Neill saw the dangers posed by al-Qaeda and their Saudi and Pakistani friends, the U.S. oil intelligence complex was contented with treating with the enemy. Forbidden Truth answers a number of questions concerning the failure by the world's only remaining superpower to prevent one of the most tragic days in American history. During the Cold War, when my colleagues and I stood watch in Navy facilities monitoring the movements of Soviet submarines, such lapses in vigilance would have had dire consequences, and we knew it. In those days, there was no tolerance for such mistakes. This tenet has been largely lost on today's bloated intelligence and law enforcement infrastructure, which has more money and resources available to it now than at any time in our nation's history. Broussard and Desquet have laid the groundwork for future investigations into terror assaults that shook the world. As the history books are written about 9/11, as reports of government committees and possible commissions are issued, Forbidden Truth will remain a seminal reference point for all those who are compelled to look beyond the veil of secrecy thrown around the events leading up to America's worst and most costly terrorist attack. 1041 at 560 QAM.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560 QAM.
This fall, television changes forever. His Tell It Like It Is style has already impacted millions of Americans. His appearances on Oprah have propelled him into the national limelight. Get ready for Dr. Phil.
Well, Phil, we've been married 20 years.
Don't cry.
I'm not crying.
Look at me when you talk.
I'm looking right at you.
See, your problem is you're stupid.
No, you see, me and my husband...
You got a big butt, too, and you're stupid.
What?
Why are you crying? You see, I don't have any sympathy for you.
But you see, me and my husband...
You're an idiot.
We haven't had sex in like 10 years.
Well, I wouldn't have sex with you either. Look at the can on you. Dr. Phil.
You know, the problem seems to be I come home, I want to watch TV.
Don't tell me about you. Tell me about her.
Well, I'm not trying to tell you. She comes into the room.
Don't tell me what she does. Tell me what you do.
I sit in the chair, and I have the TV on.
No,
and
you're too busy watching TV is your deal. That's what men want to do. We just want to watch TV. You can't do it.
Well, I want to do it. And
well, you can't do it. See, your problem is you're dumb. You're a dumb, watching TV idiot. Excuse me? I said you're a dumb... Don't eyeball me like that. I'm trying to help you. You're on my show. You don't have your own show, do you? You know, you need some of this. Oh! How about this? Oh! Idiot.
Oh!
Dr. Phil.
See, Dr. Phil, he just doesn't...
Now, why are you talking so quiet? You see, already I can tell that you're a pushover.
But he just doesn't...
Don't tell me what he does.
But I just don't understand.
How about some of this for you, too? Some of this.
Dr. Phil, this fall.
Here you go, Mr. Announcer Boy. Some love for you, too.
1047 at 560, WQAM. You remember you were asking me whether it's the eastbound or the westbound lanes, et cetera?
Right.
Doesn't really make any difference. It was the eastbound lanes, but nevertheless, they've got both east and westbound lanes shut down on Alligator Alley. Just mention that for anybody who's planning a trip to Naples, maybe to go see the Beasleys this weekend. Anybody who wants to negotiate the sale of the Beasley properties, et cetera, and so on. Cheney enters hospital for checkup. Yeah, we know about that. Vice President Dick Cheney, who's got a history of heart trouble, entered a hospital this morning for what aides described as a periodic and routine heart checkup. Well, that's the good news is I guess he's out of hiding now, right?
Now you can find him.
Well, no, not necessarily. He's in some hospital somewhere. The routine, does it say which hospital? No, it doesn't say which hospital. The routine exams include EKG to measure his heart rhythm and a scan of the pacemaker plus implanted in Cheney's chest last year, which monitors any irregular heartbeat. He's just fine. How you doing, Dick?
Oh, we're fine.
That's what we thought. Close shave for Special Ops Forces in Afghanistan. U.S. Special Operations Forces in Afghanistan have been ordered to shave and wear regular uniforms to look more like U.S. soldiers rather than locals, according to an official at U.S. Special Operations Command in Tampa. The order to shave facial hair and readapt uniform and grooming standards came after a Special Ops Commander, Major General Jeff Lambert, saw numerous photographs of troops operating on the ground in Afghanistan with full beards and partial uniforms, the official said. Lambert, a career Special Operations soldier based at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, conferred with the Joint Commander on the ground in Afghanistan, Lieutenant General Dan McNeil, and senior Special Operations Forces leadership officials said an agreement between the two commanders within last week was made that the Special Ops Forces would return to the standard uniform and a shave and a haircut and a partridge in a pear tree. Anything new going on the alley?
Suspect. Which car?
The very first one, which would have been a light-colored. Most people are calling it a Nissan Maxima, which it isn't. The car we have is not a Nissan, but the tag does match, and the vehicle description is a light-colored four-door sedan.
So as the cars, I don't know if you can see our air right now, but as the cars that are parked on the side of the highway, it's the car in front.
Right. The car in front was the first vehicle that we pulled over. After we pulled that vehicle over, another vehicle pulled over with it. So we ended up having two vehicles. At that point, our backup units responded, and
yeah, we know.
Part of that.
We know. Get back to us when you know something new. Anyway, two of these three stories you just faxed me I already had, but the third one I did not have. Let's see. We'll use this other one first. And by the way, I'll get back to the book, the preface, and the prologue, and the foreword. I mean, it's all worth reading. Even Miguel finds it fascinating. Not. Now, what does that mean? What is that little nervous laugh?
It was completely fascinating.
I thought it was. And like I said, the preface to the American edition I'm going to read now, and when I get around to it. Got a lot of stuff today. Lots of stuff. Plus, we're keeping our eye peeled on the alley, see what's going on with that alleged terrorist plot to do something in Miami.
They're not cooperating, apparently.
As if we don't have enough problems already.
And again, I don't know if you are able to see our air, but on the left side of our screen, we have a map showing that, as far as we're concerned, the story begins in Calhoun, Georgia, in North.
Yeah, we know that. They're not cooperating based on what? Where'd you get that?
It said on the screen, sources said that they are not cooperating.
Now, didn't that FDLE guy that they had on earlier, didn't he say that they were cooperating kind of, sort of, somewhat?
That's what he said.
And now they're not cooperating. Well, it's time to, get the gloves off. Time to start beating the snot out of them and, hang them up by their toes. Ex-Illinois priest collected child porn. A former Roman Catholic priest pleaded guilty yesterday to possession of 3 computer disks and hundreds of pages of images showing naked boys engaged in sex act and sadomasochistic activity. Vincent McCaffrey, 50, resigned from the priesthood in 1992. He later worked at a home furnishing store, managed a service station, and sold insurance. Authorities said some of the pornography, which includes images of boys as young as 6, being beaten, bound and gagged, and locked in cages, were found hidden under McCaffrey's mattress. Assistant U.S. Attorney Marcus T. Funk, that's with an N, Marcus T. Funk, told U.S. District Judge John Dara that McCaffrey had molested someone while he was a priest, but Dara cut him off and kept the hearing focused on the child pornography charges. Don't bother us with that, okay? Don't confuse us with the facts. Information concerning McCaffrey when he was a priest is under court seal, but much of it could come out during the sentencing hearing scheduled to begin December 9th. McCaffrey could be sentenced to as much as 20 years in federal prison and fined $500,000 if the judge agreed with federal prosecutors on all the points they say make the former priest's crimes unusually serious. Images of boys as young as 6 being beaten, bound and gagged, and locked in cages. Nice going, Pops. Plymouth priest arrested for rape of child. This is in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Police arrested a Roman Catholic priest at his home yesterday and charged him with raping and abusing a child on church property in the town of Rochester. That's not Rochester, New York. That's Rochester, Mass. Not Rochester, Minnesota. It's Rochester, Mass, which I never heard of. Reverend John Lyons, 73, pleaded innocent to 5 counts of rape and abuse of a child during his arraignment in Wareham District Court. He had been placed on administrative leave in May after the Boston Archdiocese learned of the allegation. Lyons is accused of committing the abuse between 1987 and 1989 on the property of St. Rose of Lima. Lima. He had been sued by 2 former altar boys at a Boston church who claimed they were abused by him in the late 1970s and early 1980s.
Difficulty for people in the area.
Yes, it is, and of course the state of
Georgia Department of Public Safety news conference in a few minutes. Now what are they going to give to us, huh? I mean, it'll kill some time for CNN, but what's the Georgia Department of Public Safety going to tell us? Since these guys were already well on the road, they were on the Hershey Highway coming down I-75 from Calhoun County. From, where was it again? What was the restaurant?
Shoney's.
Shoney's Big Boy. And you told me before the show, I asked you if you ever eaten at Shoney's, and you said that you had a wild experience, a wild intestinal experience. But they sure do have that good strawberry pie. See, I say that, but I don't know that, because I haven't eaten in a Big Boy in about 100 years. There's Elias Brothers Big Boy, which is very big in Detroit, and Shoney's. Don't we have a Shoney's right out there on Davie Road Extension? Is that still there?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah, right by 595. There's a Shoney's. Sure enough. I think I have time to do the preface here. Well, like I said, preface to the American edition, the book again, Forbidden Truth. It's a paperback. You don't have to spend an arm and leg to buy it. It's on Nation Books by Jean-Charles Brissard and Guillaume Desquet. And my French isn't very good, so if I'm mispronouncing their names, tough crap. Preface to the American edition. It is May 2002, and Osama bin Laden and his lieutenants are as well known as Bill Gates and his software. The irony of infamy. I remember walking in London, it must have been about a year ago, in the company of a banker, a specialist in fund management whose services were greatly appreciated by his wealthy clientele from the Persian Gulf. On that day, we were having our 4th interview, I think. By this time, we had reached an understanding, and we were no longer just discussing the secrets and sins of a Middle Eastern businessman. As we strolled towards St. James Park, he told me about the everyday life of his parents, somewhere in a village overlooking the Mediterranean to the north of Beirut. Boisterously and with great animation, he complained about his father's inability to converse normally with his daughter, an English schoolgirl who was a passionate militant and an environmentalist group. Further on, in Pall Mall, after having walked past the walls that shelter the legendary Travelers Club, which he sometimes frequented, the place in London where mercenary aristocrats and adventurous diplomats can be found, suddenly he began to speak in hushed tones, occasionally turning around. He began to recount family stories of how the financing of Islamic terrorism had succeeded. We talked about the accounting operations of a credit establishment in the United Arab Emirates and his trips to Islamabad, in particular to the bank used by Pakistani Secret Service to support the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. As always, it was the concern of a Saudi religious chief allied with one of the 4,000 princes who make up the royal family and whose right-hand man had organized a financial circuit from Dubai to the British Virgin Islands for the profit of Osama bin Laden. Officially, bin Laden was then an ordinary terrorist, albeit one who had blown up 2 U.S. embassies and attacked the USS Cole, sought naturally by the FBI, but in whom most diplomats beyond the frontiers of the West were not interested. The multiple oil contracts with Saudi Arabia then necessitated a certain understanding of the specificities of the religious dictatorship operated by King Fahd and Prince Abdallah. Clearly, one did not crush such an invaluable ally in the name of seizing a bandit. Therefore, at that time, these enterprises were mentioned only sotto voce, very quietly, even by the 2 peaceful pedestrians walking under the London drizzle, especially under the London drizzle. The city is home to dozens of fortunes built around the oil wells of the Gulf. I think we better do the break, and then I'll come back and finish this, you know what I'm saying? Because time is of the essence, baby, and God only knows what heavy-duty crap may be coming down today.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560, QAM.
Friday, you bastard.
Saddam Hussein's a motherfucker. Saddam Hussein's a motherfucker. Saddam Hussein's a motherfucker. Saddam Hussein's a motherfucker. Iraq's a crappy little country. Smells like the... Just get rid of that. You're in drinking chubby and blow up the whole goddamn place. Saddam Hussein's a motherfucker. 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 Saddam Hussein's a motherfucker.
Okay, so they're saying that one of these 2 cars on the alley is traced back to a family, to an address in Hanover Park, a suburb of Chicago. And that they're just a bunch, they're talking to neighbors, and they're just a bunch of like ordinary people. Kind of like Mohammed Atta and all of those guys, which we all remember very well.
Again, this is Hanover Park, Illinois. It is quite a ways outside Chicago to the north and west. It is a suburb, as I said, very quiet suburban community.
All right, Jeff, we're going to let you go and find more information. We've just passed the top of the hour. I imagine we have a lot of new viewers joining us.
No, we don't. Let me just read the background again on the story in case anybody's rolling out of the sack right now or isn't aware of what's been going on all morning. Alligator Alley remains closed right now as I speak after police detained 3 men in 2 cars because of a possible terrorist threat. Bomb-sniffing dogs alerted authorities to material in both vehicles, but no explosives were immediately found. E.J. Piccolo, the FDLE, said. Authorities blasted open what appeared to be a backpack taken from one of the cars, and a robot was being used to search the vehicles. Bomb squad technicians in protective blast suits also removed a suitcase and plastic bags from one car and searched the interior and the trunk. We're taking it very seriously until we can eliminate the possibility of a threat or verify that there was a legitimate threat, Piccolo said. Piccolo said the men in the vehicles had not been arrested but were being detained. He also said all 3 were U.S. citizens, wouldn't identify them any further, although there was Arabic handwriting found on papers inside one of the cars. Florida police said they tracked down the cars after one of them ran a toll plaza. John Bagnardi of the Florida Highway Patrol said the men were uncooperative when they were stopped and refused to allow a search, so the authorities brought in the bomb-sniffing dogs. The cars, both with Illinois license plates, remain on Interstate 75, about 50 yards apart. The FHP shut down that 20-mile stretch after 1 o'clock this morning when the vehicles were stopped. And like I said, the alley in both directions is closed right now. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation had issued an advisory for 2 cars yesterday after a woman at a Shoney's restaurant in Calhoun, Georgia, in the northwestern part of that state, told police she overheard 3 men of Middle Eastern descent discussing terrorist plans Wednesday night. CBS Radio News reporter Michael Hibben said the woman apparently reported the men were bragging that they were going to inflict damage in South Florida and reportedly said they would let Americans mark the September 11th anniversary and then strike on Friday the 13th. The Highway Patrol said the road was blocked off from the toll booth east of Naples to State Road 29. Ever take State Road 29?
Not that I know of.
No, that's the shortcut. That's the clip-off. It's like a barren, man. You can go through there about 400 miles an hour. It's an old 2-lane highway. If you're like going over to the West Coast, if you're like going over to Tampa to Byrne Steakhouse to pay respects to the late Vern Laxer, or if you're going over to St. Pete to hang out with some of those old people on the shuffleboard courts.
Sounds fun.
What is it?
I said that sounds fun.
Oh, it's great. Those are the grandparents of the people who live in Surfside. I tell you, boy, you're sure faxing me just a pile of stuff here, man. A pile.
Here's a pile of Schmidt coming through.
Huh?
There's a pile of Schmidt coming through.
Wow. Look at this. This thing goes on and on by Elisa Solomon.
Oh,
woo! More of that Jewish stuff. Don't be saying Jew stuff on the Jew holidays. Okay, I won't. Now, did I interrupt? What did I do? Did I interrupt my reading? I think I did, didn't I? Oh, here's the Georgia guys.
The robot that has been provided by Metro-Dade.
No, these aren't the Georgia guys. This is back on the alley. Anyway, now where the hell was I? See, this is bad, interrupting your reading in the middle of an important article.
You got to mark the spot.
You're right. Here it is. This is from the preface. The name of the book is Forbidden Truth by John Charles Broussard and Guillaume Desquet. The international bestseller banned by the Bin Laden family. The preface which they wrote goes on to say, since 1998, the professional newsletter Intelligence Online had published several investigations of these charitable associations and companies with Saudi, Pakistani, and United Arab Emirates origins, which, without giving too much away, financed Al-Qaeda. Each time our sources trembled. Some begged us to promise them we would no longer cover the subject. But 9/11 changed everything. Osama bin Laden and his lieutenants became public figures. Their story was shown on hundreds of television programs, and gradually the reasons behind the emergence of their movement and its expansion over the course of the past 10 years became fundamental questions for our understanding. After asking how was it possible, everybody wanted to know why was it possible. The book Forbidden Truth seeks to bring together the first brief responses. Published for the first time in France, November 14, 2001, it brought together 3 years of investigations into how political channels, financial networks, oil stakes, and secret diplomatic deals slowly created room for the maneuver for this group of nostalgic terrorists of the Holy War with their crude ideology swearing as much by the Koran as by the Kalashnikov. After the attacks, we tried to publish it as quickly as possible because at the moment when the military operations were getting underway in Afghanistan, it seemed important precisely not to focus on Afghanistan. It was more a matter of looking closer to home. We wanted to decipher this badly controlled nexus without which Osama bin Laden and his companions would have remained just distant armed cranks praying in the desert. We wanted to dissect this entanglement of negligence and political interest and calculations from the parquet floors of the Foreign Office in London to the marble floors of the Texas oil companies in Houston and to the fitted carpets of fiduciary companies in Geneva. In fact, Appendix 7 of this book, originally commissioned by the French intelligence services, was the basis of a French parliamentary report that resulted in the closing of several so-called Islamic charities. The report was handed over to George Bush by Jacques Chirac during his first visit to the U.S. in the wake of 9/11. But at no time did we imagine the consequences of the revelations contained in these pages. What's worse, we never once wanted this book to become party to the investigations that were going on right under our eyes. That would have been a waste of time and effort, but its contents overtook us. We had taken stock of it in December 2001 when, several days before Christmas, a committee of special inquiry of the Security Council of the UN moved to hear us. Its mission to reconstruct a money trail, thanks to which bin Laden has been able to pursue his activities. The hearing took place in Paris in a quiet annex at UNESCO headquarters. It focused exclusively on the financial networks and parallel diplomacy that had followed the Taliban and Osama bin Laden to gain an aura of power. What transpired was 2 hours of tight, technical discussion in the presence of 8 diplomats who had recently discovered the extent of these collusions and who did not hide their embarrassment before the seriousness of the charges leveled at Saudi Arabia. From India to the U.S., this panel of investigators represented a gamut of leading nations, all of which at one time had gone greedily fishing, opting to preserve their relationship with the monarchs of the Gulf or their pipeline projects in Central Asia over the fight against terrorism. But henceforth they forced themselves to examine it, sometimes to the point of fear. As the book has been covered by the foreign press, reactions of a different sort have reached us, aggressive ones, sometimes in the form of insults. French bankers, American oil companies, and Persian Gulf businessmen, luxuriously ensconced in financial paradises in Europe or the Antilles, didn't take well to such a spilling of the beans. These were the men whose fortunes derived from family secrets and maybe a few words exchanged on the tarmac at private airports. One of them, and not the least, Yesam bin Laden, brother of Osama, a Swiss citizen of just 1 year, head of an arborescence of offshore companies, stepped up litigation using all the possibilities afforded under Swiss freedom of press laws to stop the book's publication on the grounds that he disapproved of our general approach. The court that pronounced the act of censorship didn't seem to have taken into account the text context. This is proof that not all truth should be spoken, especially in the land of secret banking, Switzerland. Nevertheless, despite the unexpected support of the Swiss justice system, Yesam bin Laden did not escape an investigation. A money laundering watchdog at the French finance ministry spotted suspicious transfers being made through one of his accounts. An action was quickly brought in March 2002 by Magistrate Reno van Roombeek, a specialist in financial cases, at which we were asked to appear as witnesses in our capacity as authors of this book. Swiss police carried out searches across the country on March 27th, probing the money laundering allegations. The operation involved searches at the headquarters of 9 companies and 4 homes in Geneva, Bern, Zug, and Zurich. A week later, bin Laden's villa in Cannes in the south of France was also searched at Van Roombeek's request. Beyond these developments, we felt that after 9/11, with investigations like this one, there were others, something was transformed. Perceptions, perhaps, a sense of urgency, a general impression that from now on world affairs were of more interest. After finally terrorizing us, the terrorists have surrendered some of their vigilance to our societies. With the endless debates and exchanges provoked by this book, it seems to us that a new wisdom for the long term was essential. People will no longer joke about the power struggles and petty rivalries that plague our planet. Everyone must be mindful of the consequences of a hatred left to rot on the other side of the world just because there was no immediate interest to keep a rich country there. However, over there in that other world where the unthinkable emerged, where educated and fanatical young boys became capable of flying planes in large buildings, in that part of the world, what has changed? Nothing or very little. Certainly, there's a plethora of military options underway to destroy the terrorist camps. Certainly, the contemptible Taliban regime has been disintegrated, having benefited from far too long from the benevolence of some Western quarters and the generosity of oil companies. Evidently, even in the middle of Afghan mountains, deprived of powerful political and financial connections, their one-time allies now rectifying their mistakes, the masters of the country became once again masters of their goats. With the spectacle of the fall of the Taliban and the bombardment of the final trapped al-Qaeda legion in Afghanistan, a conviction seizes us. We witness the rightful vengeance inflicted on this rabble, and still not quite. How does one erase that vision, almost burlesque, of the head of the Taliban, Mullah Omar, saving himself, that is, running away, from a city on a simple moped in a country that had been for several weeks under the control of Western allies? The executors of low deeds have been routed, but their paymasters remain unpunished. Who are they? Islamic bankers located in the United Arab Emirates, those chief clerics installed as the ruling spiritual powers in Saudi Arabia, whose intrigues we describe, several Saudi princes close to the royal palace whose hidden alliances we divulged, those in charge in Pakistan, eager to promote a strong Sunni regime on the other side of the border in particular. The bald truth, ugly but undeniable, is that Arabic peninsula that is home to the main supply of oil reserves consumed by the industrialized nations is the power rests in the hands of dictators of the sands whose penchant for nepotism and gerontocracy guaranteed us 50 years of reliable and easily corruptible middlemen who are able to fill their coffers on our fuel purchases and their arms acquisitions. In the region, these emirs and kings that keep their people in a permanent state of submission and fear have always held up the Koran to legitimize their position and have always been prepared to compromise with the most radical clerics to ensure that no one dislodges from their palaces. Here they are now, acting shocked and surprised to learn that one of their faithful soldiers of one of these mullahs, Osama bin Laden, is behind the new world disorder that so vexes their rich Western partners. It's the mesh of these secretive relationships. It's the influence of religious extremists in those countries on which the health of our trade rests. It's our willful blindness before those sovereigns whose very archaism debases Islam. It's the inconsistency of them financing the radical aims throughout the world through foundations aided by the petrodollars we throw at them. These are the realities that explain in depth the growing power of Osama bin Laden. At the same time, they bring to light the irresponsibility of what euphemistically we call in our country parallel diplomacy, as if to convince ourselves that the misdeeds that it necessarily incorporates remain parallel to our concerns, that one should not be confused with the other. Herein lies our mistake. 237 votes on our poll today. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? Yasser Arafat's only got 9. He's small potatoes. Ariel Sharon's got 14. The Pope's got 23. Osama Yamama 34, dead or alive. Saddam Hussein 67. And George W., he's got 90. He'd be having 90. It's 12 minutes after 11 at 560 QAM. We got anything new on there that I'm missing?
Looks like a press conference.
Yeah, it's a press conference.
What I would like to, the message that I would like to relay this morning is that the system that we have in place and what we've been relaying to our public in Georgia to be alert and be aware and report has worked.
Oh, and Jojo. That is the Georgia guy. Kind of looked like a Georgia guy to me.
VIP
like Sports. Hey, don't be interrupting the spot, man. We got to move ahead. Gary Sarner's going to come in there and beat you right around the head. VIPSportsbook.com should sound familiar to you because we've been telling you about them for a long time. VIP Sportsbook is the only sportsbook to be endorsed by all the industry watchdog groups since 1996. The Casino Times News recent issue says you can look, but you won't find a better overall sportsbook than VIPSportsbook.com. But maybe you're looking for more than just a world-class book that offers you 24-hour VIP service and the safety of a leader. How about these things? How about the highest parlay odds anywhere up to 2,000 to 1, minimum bets of only $5, and free withdrawals 24 hours a day, and a 15% cash bonus added to your first deposit? How about all of these things, huh? I can never find that.
All of these things.
Like I said. And this isn't some jungle book located like in the hinterlands of Alligator Alley. This is Dutch-based VIPSportsbook.com where you're treated with class and your money is always extremely safe. Sign up online and also get a 15% cash bonus with your account or call them toll-free at 866-VIP-BETS, B-E-T-S. It's easy to get yourself started. Just log on to VIPSportsbook.com. And don't forget, when you do sign up online, you get that 15% cash bonus. Be a winner at VIPSportsbook.com. Plunge your brains out. VIPSportsbook.com, where you be the VIP.
Live and local. This is 560. The radio's all yours now. QAM.
You're a bastard.
Yes, I am.
Welcome back to the Mo Howard David Show, where we're chock full of zany but good, clean family fun. You know that pipe-smoking jizz guzzler thinks rape is funny? Is that funny? Planes crashing into buildings is funny too, huh? What? Since when is gang rape funny? Especially when it's me getting my tea bag grabbed. What a jackass.
Hey, how about them hurricanes?
No, don't go tap dancing when I talk. This is important. They don't know comedy. I'll show them comedy. Today I brought my collection of Lum and Abner tapes.
Who?
Lum and Abner, you moron. They even named the restaurant after Lum.
Oh.
You clueless schmuck. We'll get back to that later. Right now, it's time for our transcendent mid-show snack. Bring the morning mayor his food.
Ooh.
Here they are. My favorite place to dine, Zygote Boca. Dig in, everybody.
What is it, shrimp?
Looks like a donut. No, it's the veined embryos from Planned Parenthood in the hood. What? It's good. Try it with the cocktail sauce. Hey, Beast, go play that Alice Cooper record.
Dead baby can't take care of itself.
There's a little atmosphere for you to help it go down the gullet. The heck, baby, I really dig that Alice Cooper. See? I'm with it, and I'm hip. I'm a hipster. If these punks only knew what was good. Here, I got some Sensen here to cleanse your palate there.
Thanks, Mo.
All right. Well, we got the Meathead Mad Dog coming up at 1, followed by that Fat Joe right after the Queen and the Spick. What's that?
It's a plane! The plane!
Where?
It's headed right for your ass, Mo. Bend over, quick!
11:19 at 560 WQM. So they said that the... now, I don't know whether that was... I guess it must have been in Shoney's, because we don't know where these people were hanging out, these three. But they were watching on TV in Shoney's on Wednesday some of the ceremonies marking the anniversary of 9/11, and they were laughing. How do you like that? What do you think we do to people who are laughing while we're watching the somber 9/11 ceremony? Exactly. And what is this stuff you just faxed me about Chelsea Clinton pictures in a roused state?
I don't know.
Look at that. Editors at Time Warner's People magazine found themselves in controversy yesterday after the weekly published a photograph showing former First Daughter Chelsea Clinton in an apparent aroused state. Clinton is shown erect as she is embraced by her companion Ian Klaus at last week's U.S. Open tennis tournament, her face showing bedroom pleasures. She's shown erect. Does she have a penis?
That's what I'm thinking.
Man, that's incredible, you know what? Wait a minute.
There was that burning somewhere near where these rail cars are.
Fire at BASF chemical plant in Freeport, Texas.
Fill up or offload their wares. And again, this is at a BASF plant in Bryan Mound, Texas, and we'll keep our eyes and ears open on that.
Okay, thank you so much. See, as soon as I saw that fire and everything, I started getting a little bit nervous. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Not that we're on edge or anything like that, but we are under orange alert. You do remember that. Anyway, getting back to this, it says, publishing the provocative photograph of the media-shy Clinton is the latest attempt by New People editor Martha Nelson to heat up the magazine. The snap is featured near the front of the book in the September 23rd issue. It's on page 24, by the way, in case you want to know. But the controversial shot of Clinton pulled mixed reviews, even from within the magazine. I work here. I found it in very poor taste, a People staffer told the Drudge Report from New York. Why don't we just run a photograph of his hands down her pants? Oh, get an 80 share at least. Probably sell like at least 100 copies.
That'll work.
You'd go out and get it.
I will.
To see Chelsea Clinton with somebody who's, oh, God. Oh, man. Editors defended it, noting Clinton's display was in a public setting. Footnote, in an effort to pump up traffic at the newsstand, editor Nelson also runs an aggressive stalkerati photograph of pop star Justin Tinkerbell, who's captured in a close-up through bushes, leaving his Los Angeles home with an actress. Woo! Heavy duty, man. I'm going to go right out and grab that. Men not cooperating with officials, okay? It's going to take hours, and they're still walking around there in the alley. They got a bunch of stuff over the side in the grass. They're smoking a little grass. They got the cars. They got it all blocked off, both lanes. So if you're going like to Naples, forget about it as far as the alley's concerned, because it ain't going to happen. Aren't you going to Naples to pick up your... oh, that's right. You don't have a check. Yeah, Miguel, we got a new deal now because we have... Now, how come I can't talk about that other stuff? Don't mention it. You know what I'm talking about. How come we can't discuss that? Because I gave my word, but I can't discuss it, I guess, until Monday, and then Monday it'll be real exciting news. That's something for you folks to look forward to, and Miguel sure don't want to say nothing, because otherwise they'll force him to go out with Doreen this weekend. 254, fate worse than death, 254 votes on a poll. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? George W. Bush, 96. Saddam Hussein, 72. Osama Yamama bin Laden, 36. He'd got more if we knew he was alive, I'm sure. The Pope, 26, and he'd probably get more, too, if we were sure he was alive. Ariel Sharon, 15, and Yasser Arafat has been holding up the rear all day long. He's only got 9. And he liked QM so much that he just can't leave. Didn't you say he's going to school or something?
That's what he said, yeah.
He just can't leave. He don't want to leave. He loves that show so much. He loves it. Here's the prologue in this book. I've only got a few more pages, and then it gets to the start of the book, and I'm sure I'm not going to go reading a book on here, am I? You never know. Forbidden Truth, U.S. Taliban secret oil diplomacy and the failed hunt for Osama Yamama bin Laden by Jean-Charles Brissard and Guillaume Dasquet. I mean, it's no Eddie is a douchebag, but it's the best I can do today. The prologue says the interview took place at the Oak Bar in the New York Plaza Hotel, a place as dark and austere as the lives of those who behind the scenes are leading the fight against terrorism. In late July 2001, I met with John O'Neill on business. O'Neill was the former head of anti-terrorism in the U.S., who had become deputy director of the FBI's New York office in charge of national security. At the age of 49, after having dedicated half his life to the FBI, he joined the New York flagship office, a position coveted by FBI agents. We had first met a month earlier in Paris. A group of French anti-terrorist experts and I had met with O'Neill to share information on al-Qaeda's financial networks. We had dinner at Chez Benoit in the Les Marais area, at the same table occupied not long before by Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright, the deputy director of the Direction de la Surveillance des whatever that is, DST, in charge of anti-terrorism, and Elaine Marceau, the former chief prosecutor of the terrorists for the Parquet de Paris, the highest prosecution authority in France. I gave O'Neill my report titled The Economic Network of the Bin Laden Family, of which he had heard during the dinner, and we agreed to meet in New York the following month to discuss the report. New York had become John O'Neill's territory. He knew every nook and cranny, from the historic steakhouses to the China Club, from Little Italy to the bars frequented by movie stars and film directors. Following him through the city, one would think he owned the place. He was welcomed everywhere as a friend. He was also never off duty, constantly juggling his cell phone and Palm Pilot as if to remind himself of his central mission. Accompanying him on his rounds was also an opportunity to discuss our business together. John O'Neill was a rebel in a world where the President and his administration called the shots. In charge of investigating acts of terrorism by the al-Qaeda organization, he went to Yemen in October 2000 after the attack on the USS Cole, in which 17 U.S. servicemen died. He lambasted the obstructionist attitude of among American diplomats there. In the course of the investigation, it became clear that diplomats from the State Department and FBI investigators didn't share the same approach. The diplomats wanted to comply with the Yemenite regime in order to calm political relations, while the FBI wanted to solve the crime and find those responsible for the attack as quickly as possible. It was apparent that these two visions, these two cultures, could not coexist. After another dispute over the FBI agents' carrying of arms and the turning over of second-level suspects to the American authorities, the American ambassador to Yemen, Barbara Bodine, forbade John O'Neill and his team of Rambos, as the Yemenite authorities called them, from entering Yemen. This despite the fact that, according to O'Neill, the FBI had in hand all of the evidence needed to implicate Osama bin Laden's terrorist network in the attack. Sitting in the China Club at the top of a building overlooking Manhattan, John O'Neill recounted the heated exchange with the American ambassador, his disappointment in the State Department's impotence, feigned or not, and above all the threat of Osama bin Laden. For him, everything originated in Saudi Arabia, and everything could be explained and solved through this prism. All of the answers, all of the clues allowing us to dismantle Osama bin Laden's organization can be found in Saudi Arabia, he told me, emphasizing the inability of American diplomacy to get anything out of King Fahd concerning terrorist networks. The reason? There was only one: corporate oil interests. Could this single explanation keep the U.S. from investigating one of the principal terrorist networks in the world? Yes, for the simple reason that the American administration had refrained from using the investigation as a means of putting pressure on its Saudi friends. Since George W.'s election, the FBI was even more politically engaged, O'Neill said, and that could be felt even on his own investigations regarding bin Laden. Saudi Arabia has much more pressure on us than we have toward the kingdom, he said, considering the U.S.'s dependency on its oil, and thus the State Department's need to have a secure and stable Saudi Arabia. During investigations of the attack on a military installation in Dhahran on June 25, 1996, which killed 19 American soldiers, O'Neill went to Saudi Arabia himself to convince King Fahd to get the Saudi authorities to cooperate. But that was a lost cause because Saudi officials interrogated the principal suspects themselves, while the FBI was relegated to collecting material evidence from the bomb site. As for the relations between al-Qaeda and Saudi Arabia, the conclusions of my report, which was commissioned by the French intelligence service, did not surprise O'Neill, and he confirmed that bin Laden had close ties with high-ranking personalities and families of the Saudi kingdom in July 2001, contrary to their public statements. He believed, however, that the chances of getting the Saudis to cooperate were slim, and he called into question the FBI's extremely political stance in this area, as well as that at the interior level. Coming from one of America's top specialists in these matters, John O'Neill's revelations shed light on the potential danger of Osama bin Laden. They tell us in clear terms that the fight against terrorism was not the government's number one priority. It was essentially out of resentment, and because he knew that nothing would change his strong beliefs, that O'Neill left the FBI in August 2001 to take position as Director of Security at the World Trade Center. On September 11th, he was meeting on the subject of security in the Twin Towers when the first plane hit the building. He left to call for help and coordinate the arrival of the police before going back into the building to help evacuate the occupants, as if to save the thousands of New Yorkers who were so dear to him. He died in the effort. John O'Neill's testimony continues to be an essential piece of the puzzle in the fight against terrorism. It sheds light on the two principal stumbling blocks for the West in confronting these networks: oil and its geographically strategic importance, and Saudi Arabia and its religious and financial ambitions. 11:28 at 560 WQAM. Mattress shopping? Forget about it. Don't leave the house. Just sit there right by your phone, make one easy call, and it's a piece of cake. Call 1-800-MATTRESS like I do all the time. When the old mattress is gone, believe me, when the old mattress is worn out, you'll know it, because you won't get a good night's sleep. Your back will be killing you, and you know it's time to call 1-800-MATTRESS. They'll be there in no time at all. You talk to people who really know their crap. They'll hook you up with the name brand mattress you want at an unbeatable price. Serta, Sealy, Simmons, and King Coil, they got them all. And they also give you that 30-day in-home comfort guarantee so you can try it out the real way by sleeping on it and doing your thing on it. And you get any 2-hour window for delivery any day, 7 days a week, like from noon to 2, 1 to 3, whenever it's going to be convenient for you when you're going to be home. So be smart when you get a new mattress. Just make the one easy call to dial a mattress. It is unbeatable. 1-800-MATTRESS, 1-800-MATTRES, or check them out on the web at mattress.com.
We're Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Neil God.
Alright. W wants to topple Hussein, even though no one will back us. Hard to tell which one is more insane when it was the Saudis who attacked us.
Yes.
W has to finish that pipeline. Dad is losing his patience. Order the troops to go give up their lives for the world's biggest gas station. The pipeline at all costs, why try it? The lives that will be lost, can't buy it. There's more important things to do. What the hell is wrong with you? W, outraged by white-collar crime, except for your buddies at Enron, seeking advice from Condoleezza Rice because she works for Chevron. Power and greed, you and that Dick Cheney think war for a pipeline is a good start, but leaders from all around the world agree you're a functioning retard. The pipeline at all costs, why try it? The lives that will be lost, can't buy it. There's more important things to do. What the hell is wrong with you? Oh. W wants to win day to day. That's the decision he's reaching. W's just as insane as Hussein. Won't somebody impeach him?
11:33 at 560. They just showed. Did you see the woman, the blonde-haired woman with the glasses, kind of chubby middle-aged woman?
Was that her?
That was her. That was the lady that was sitting in the Shoney's. You know, I'm listening to some of the audio during the break, and they're going on about, well, Tom Ridge and Homeland Security and blah, blah, and everything is working. Everything is working only because she happened to be sitting in the Shoney's, and she was alert, baby. She was listening. She saw a bunch of schmata heads, and she was listening, and she picked up the information. Otherwise...
She was listening or she was nosy?
No, she was. I think she deserves the Congressional Medal of Honor if they find that there's anything to this. Don't you?
Yeah.
Hey, what do you mean she would?
Cliff Gorman.
Are you suggesting that she's a yenta? Who is it?
Cliff Gorman.
Her name is Cliff Gorman?
No.
I understand. That's just a joke. You're too uptight today, Miguel. Too uptight.
Is he some sort of a celebrity?
Who is he?
Cliff Gorman?
I don't know why.
I'm asking you. It says, Neil, you got your third celebrity. Cliff Gorman died.
I have no idea who that is. But he might be. In fact, during the next break, I'll go. In fact, well, why not to have Ugly Chuck do it there? He's got nothing else to do except sit there and twiddle his thumbs and play a few spots. And by the way, thanks again for that ad aware. I've only had like 2 pop-up ads in the last 24 hours, which I'm very excited about. I usually get more than that in 10 seconds. Is there a way to get rid of all of them?
Very difficult. I mean,
okay.
There's stuff
No,
there
hey,
that
listen, I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to push it. You're the computer expert. We're ecstatic to have you around, and believe me, I mean, there will be times I'm trying to download something, and it sits there. The computer just sits there, and you think, damn, it's not the computer, and then you find you got like 16 different pop-up ads laying on top of each other that you have to get rid of.
Exactly.
Not anymore. So what are we looking up? Cliff Gorman. See, you keep repeating that like I'm supposed to respond. Oh, yeah, Cliff Gorman. What happened? I don't know who the hell that is. I know Harvey Korman.
Being explosive or dangerous in that vehicle. Don't forget they were also looking at one point, they were keeping their antenna up for any sort of a biological agent that might also be in that vehicle. Don't know if that was a concern.
We don't know crap, okay? Tell us when you do know, okay? Don't keep telling us we don't know. Tell us when you do know and stop. Oh, is it Turkey Point? Just tell us when you do know, okay? And cut the crap. Now, what the hell was I just doing? I got sidetracked.
Duh.
Okay. No, I was going to go back and finish this, the forward here, and then I'll be done with reading from this book, okay? If you want to buy the book, go out and buy it. How much was it? How much does this cost? It has, here it is, $12.95 U.S., Canadian $20.95. See, even though look at that. Look at the way that they rape us. Even though there's the exchange rate, it comes out almost exactly the same. In fact, I think I paid a little bit more. Because $21 times 0.65 is like, about the same. Well worth it at 10 times the price. It's a paperback, Forbidden Truth, U.S. Taliban Secret Oil Diplomacy and the Failed Hunt for Bin Laden by John Charles Brissard and Guillaume Desquet on Nation Books, paperback. Go out and pick up 40 copies today. In Washington on January 22nd, 2001, America appeared to be delivered. After weeks of controversy over how to reach punch ballots, the United States presidential election was finally over. On this day, George W. Bush took up residence in the White House and, even more important, in the Oval Office. Members of the international press watched skeptically as the governor of Texas was sworn in. That same evening, on the top floor of the National Press Club building on 14th Street, several European reporters gathered at the bar. Opinions flew, castigating the new administration's Texan culture, while only a stone's throw away the Republican team was settling into its new home. The journalists engaged in lively conversation with members of the American press, mostly from the Washington Post, whose offices also were just a few blocks away. The Europeans who had witnessed the jubilation of the inauguration worried about the new president's lack of international awareness, his penchant for wide application of the death penalty, which had been abolished in so many countries, his limited knowledge of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and his arrogant declarations of American empire, which had offended many old world observers and decision-makers. Perched on massive bar stools surrounded by the endless cherrywood bar of the National Press Club, some of the more prudent members of the French and German press revealed their contrasting opinions, foreshadowing many more debates to come. Others contented themselves with listing a few truths, to wit, before the presidential campaign, Bush Jr. had traveled outside the United States a total of 3 times. His knowledge of foreign politics was limited to that which concerned Texas oil companies, which, while they may be the most powerful of their kind in the world, were also among the biggest contributors to his campaign. And finally, the new president showed major gaps in his knowledge of the world's most vulnerable regions, especially Central Asia. Proof of this had come when he was unable to name the president of Pakistan during an interview in the middle of his presidential campaign. Pervez Musharraf, a veritable ally of the Pentagon who had to reckon with a population largely hostile to the U.S., since his victory, Bush had learned how to spell at least his last name. Of course, journalists are professionals of fragmented commentary and sometimes incapable of complexity. For sure, young Bush never traveled the globe and didn't figure in the ranks of the elite diplomats, but even so, he wasn't completely ignorant of world affairs. He had still been living close to his parents when his father was director of CIA, and very early on, like so many children of wealthy Texan families, George W. had developed small service companies in the oil industry with strong ties abroad. These activities led him to work with businessmen from the Middle East, in particular from Saudi Arabia, as was the case when he was director, stockholder, and paid consultant of Harkin Energy. What's more, the president's close advisors benefited from considerable experience in managing world affairs, also acquired from their contact with Bush Sr. and Texan oil companies. First in rank was the placid, enigmatic Condoleezza Rice. Even glossy celebrity magazines are interested in her, listing the same pedigree each time. Professor at Stanford, Soviet specialist, and former security counselor under Bush Sr. in charge of Soviet affairs. Meanwhile, from 1991 to 2000, Rice was director of the Chevron Group, one of the leading oil companies in the world, in which he notably dealt with questions related to developments in Kazakhstan. On that 26th of January 2001, the men and women moving into the White House were not the isolationists we believed them to be, even if their taste in international relations possessed a vague odor of petroleum. Several thousand miles away from Washington, some people had already taken note of this. On February 5, 2001, a thunderbolt exploded at the ordinarily quiet milieu of international diplomacy at the UN Security Council. The usually restrained functionaries were flabbergasted. Less than 2 weeks after the American inauguration, an unexpected message had come from Kabul, though no one had yet realized the connection between the event and George W. Bush's election. On this day, for the first time in their short history, the Taliban said they were prepared to negotiate for international recognition. The so-called religious students would drop their hard line. The man making this announcement was none other than the foreign minister for the Taliban, Wakil Ahmad Mutawakkil. How do you say that?
Like that.
Exactly. Mutawakkil. I think we killed him. To make the desired impact, he conveyed his message to a reporter from the Times of London rather than a major Arab newspaper. His target audience was therefore Anglo-Saxon. As well as a widespread famine, Mutawakkil's country was suffering from international sanctions that were beating down with greater intensity since the UN Security Council's decision December 19, 2 months earlier, to slap an arms embargo on the Taliban and tighten diplomatic, financial, and travel sanctions on its leaders for harboring Osama bin Laden and other wanted terrorists. The Afghan foreign minister was looking for sympathetic and powerful interlocutors to help loosen the stranglehold on his country, obtain financial assistance from the IMF, and return to conditions that have officially prevailed since 1996, when Saudi Arabia and the U.S. had encouraged the Taliban in their military enterprise, considering them a source of stability in Afghanistan. In exchange, Minister Mutawakkil was prepared to yield on many sensitive issues, the first being the extradition of bin Laden. Sanctions were severe, of course, but to what extent did the Taliban know their message would be heard by the new American administration? Had Republican representatives and the Taliban already met privately before this spectacular announcement? What we do know for sure is that from February 5th to August 2nd, 2001, the U.S. engaged in private and risky discussions with the Taliban concerning geostrategic oil interest, among other things. These discussions involved the Taliban betraying Osama bin Laden, though at the time the Americans didn't know the extent of the religious leaders' power over the Afghan rulers. The suicide attacks of 9/11 were possibly the outcome of this initiative. That needs further investigation. The pages that follow, however, describe this fervent conflict, largely led by the Saudi monarchy and provoked by the cynicism of a fringe group of the Republican Party. Why did some of the key players whose responsibility in the matter is slowly being revealed appear to be blind to the danger? The situation in Afghanistan will help answer this question. Afghanistan is essential for any country wanting to exercise its supremacy in Central Asia and has long been coveted by Russia, the U.S., and above all, Saudi Arabia. In Washington, it's considered the best transit zone for the extraction of Central Asia's petroleum and natural gas. In Riyadh, for members of the Al Saud family who control the Saudi kingdom with an iron fist, the Taliban's accession to power was ideal since it represented an extension of their zone of influence in Central Asia. Their Wahhabite brand of Sunni Islam goes very well with the kind of Islam espoused by the Taliban. From the beginning, they've regarded these holy warriors as religious brothers who have allowed them to extend their oil business interests in that part of the world, and above all to contain the hegemony of their neighbor Iran, whose Shiite values they're trying to combat. Such a small territory ruled by a group of religious fanatics linked by so many energy interests, marked by struggles of power with international repercussions, how could it not become the crucible of the crisis that marked the beginning of the 21st century? Okay, that's the end of that from the book. Okay, I'm worn out. I'm ready to pass out. Give me some oxygen, okay? 11:42 at 560. One of two cars cleared by authorities. What does that mean?
To the next car, and they'll begin the same process.
Oh, you mean to say they've only been doing all that work on just the one car? And now the robot is potchking around with a second car. We got a long way to go, folks. It'll keep you busy all day. 11:43 at 560 WQAM. Oleomed is a tremendous product. It's new, it's exciting, and it's good for you. Oleomed is a soft gel capsule, and inside you'll find pharmaceutical-grade olive oil, the best that money can buy, and everybody with a brain knows olive oil is good stuff, along with vitamins, minerals, and herbals, and they make a separate product to promote health for different parts of your body. There's an Oleomed capsule designed to help your prostate, one for your heart, one for your blood pressure, one for your cholesterol, one for your circulatory system, your digestive and endocrine system, your skin, your bones, even your mind, and each and every one of them uses the benefits of the best olive oil on this planet. And Oleomed makes products specifically designed for men and for ladies as well. Pick up some today. Pick up Oleomed at Walgreens, Whole Food Markets, Navarro Pharmacy, and Sedanos. It's an exciting, a spectacular, a phenomenal new product. And if you want to find out more about what it does, where you'll find it, and where you stick it, call this toll-free number, 1-866-OLEOMED. That's 1-866-OLEOMED. And order their products on their website, too, if you want, at oleomedamerica.com.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Friday, you bastard.
One family has captured the imagination of all of America. It's Al-Qaeda in the family.
Killing all the infidels. Non-believers go to hell. Living in a cave that smells. These are the days.
Osama bin Laden's favorite son, Saad, is taking over the family business. Funny business, that is.
Oh, shut up, Edith, you dang bat. And where is that no-good meat turban son of mine, huh?
Hey, you called, Pop? Al-Qaeda in the family. It's like something you've seen before.
Oh, boy. Some of Mom's goat ribs. What are you going to do? Eat the great Satan to death, huh?
No, Pop. Just building up my strength for the jihad.
Oh, gee. Stop building up and start blowing up there, huh?
When the son of a jackal gets a son of his own, hilarity ensues on Al-Qaeda in the family. Only on Al Jazeera TV Land.
So you notice the sheriff says that they were uncooperative. No struggle, but they were uncooperative. Didn't want to give them any information, but they're not suspects. They're not suspects at this time, which is why they got the bomb robot going into the second car now. Because they're not suspects. Okay, Cliff Gorman, you want to know who he was?
Okay.
Because you guys didn't find out for me. But it's just as well, because then I wouldn't have done a search on here. Cliff Gorman, he was an actor who played bit parts. TV guest appearances, Law & Order. He was on Law & Order a bunch of times. New York News, Murder, She Wrote, which I don't watch. Spencer for Hire. See, if we saw Cliff Gorman, if we saw a picture, oh, yeah, that's Cliff Gorman. Don't you think?
Yeah, sure.
No, we wouldn't. And the movies he was in, King of the Jungle, Ghost Dog, The War of the Samurai, the 60s, Down Came a Blackbird. Oh, he was in a lot of movies, a lot of bit parts. Forget Me Not Murders, The Return of Ironside. Oh, most of these were TV movies. Hoffa. Well, that was a good movie. Did you see that movie?
No.
Who was in that movie?
I don't know.
God, I think, wasn't Robert De Niro in that movie?
Okay.
Well, anyway, it was a good movie. You didn't see the movie Hoffa?
No, I didn't see that.
Was excellent. A Night in the City, Terror on Track 9, Vestige of Honor, etc. Well, there you go. Okay, that takes care of that. But he's not, I don't know, he's small potatoes. You don't put him up there with Kim Hunter and Johnny Unitas, do you?
No,
put him in that category?
No.
I don't think so.
No way.
Okay. Explosion at chemical plant near Houston, Texas.
South Florida today. We will have more on that just ahead.
Yeah, okay, so there's some pictures on CNN. Well, we're still trying to find out more about what's going on Alligator Alley, which is still closed, by the way. Now we can lighten it up a little bit, get to some of these other stories now that I've finished reading 8,000 pages from that book. I'm serious, I need oxygen. But I just think that book is, and of course there are going to be skeptics out there. Oh, there we go again. It's not just anti-Bush, it's anti-Clinton. It's anti all the corruption and the whole thing, OIL. That's what it's all about, baby. OILMONEY. And I'm sitting here thinking about that scene in the movie Network. Boy, that Paddy Chayefsky, he was one of the most brilliant people of our time. That movie was so far ahead of its time, like 30 years ago. And Robert Duvall is screaming about the Saudi deal, and of course Howard Beale gets on television. I want you to call the White House right now. And he goes through that.
Crime is bad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Oh!
The Saudi deal's got to be stopped right now. And of course, they had all the loans were with the Saudis and all of that. And Robert Duvall is moaning and groaning at the bar there and pushes the bartender punk aside to see the thing on TV, and he's having a nervous breakdown because the Saudis basically were taking control over the UBS, which at that time was the other big network. Remember that?
Yeah.
You didn't see Network.
No.
What is wrong with you, man? No wonder you're, living in that little tiny world of yours with your guayabera and your goddamn double-baked beans or whatever they call that.
Yummy.
Refried beans. Oh, God. No wonder you're crapping your brains out and you're blaming it on Shoney's. Let's see. You're running spots for Calvary Church? You have to be kidding. Well, what does that mean?
I have no clue, but there's 2 faxes on that.
Calvary Church? Oh, there it is. It's Calvary Chapel. Well, don't ask me. It's probably Adam Turan again. Adam, if it's not a cult, it's some kind of a church. I have no idea what that is, okay? I got nothing to do with that. I don't listen. I'm busy doing stuff here during the breaks, and I'm supposed to worry about what the recorded spots are. Hey, it's QAM, guys. We'll put anything on the air. If somebody will pay us, we don't give a crap what it is. If the goddamn Al-Qaeda would buy some spots, we'd take their money. We don't care. We're a bunch of grave robbers. Here's another one. I know you can't talk about this. I don't know. And no, it's not Boca Brian behind. Boca Brian's not doing the spot. Maybe he started a cult. Maybe Boca Brian started a cult. Oh, brother, there's so much stuff coming on here. You guys will have to wait till Monday. I'll get to all of this stuff, okay? And they expect me to be sitting here listening to the goddamn recorded spots. Although I did hear that one spot that keeps cutting in and out, which I think you just played it again. I don't know which one that is. You know the one I mean?
Yeah, that club.
Yeah, where the audio keeps cutting out. And
yeah.
Same thing. We don't care. As like they're
well,
willing
that's
to
on
pay.
purpose. That's intentional, I believe.
It is?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say that it's stupid, but it sounds pretty stupid. It's annoying.
I agree.
Sounds like there's a glitch, especially on this station where we're so used to having that happen and thinking, oh, there we go again, more technical screw-ups because we got that crappy equipment. Although we do have the audio vault.
That was an effect.
I see. Well, it sure affected me. Here's something that might affect you. By the way, how's that poll coming? 292 votes. We're approaching 300. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? Yasser Arafat, at least in double digits now. He's got 11, but he's been sucking wind in last place all day. Ariel Sharon, 17. The Pope, 31. Osama Yamama, 42. Saddam Hussein, 85. He's getting close. And George W., 106. Levi's trousers protect your testicles.
Oh!
Now, where did this come from? Do we know? I don't know what the publication this is from. But what difference does it make because it's so enlightening? Levi's trousers to introduce a new range of slacks with mobile phone anti-radiation pockets. The trousers will be introduced next year in the UK under the company's Dockers brand and could cost as much as £100. That's $140 a pair. The phone pockets are lined with special material which tailor say will prevent radiation from phones reaching the skin. $640 a pair. Of course, the company isn't saying that radiation from mobile phones is dangerous or anything. No. It says it's merely responding to customer concerns about radiation emissions from mobile phones. It says the slacks also have some waterproof coating as well and come in different colors. That's colors with a U, and sizes, no doubt. In May, the UK government published a report which found that some mobile phones' shields can significantly reduce exposure to radiation. Tests on some products found that many of the shield devices can reduce exposure to radiation by large amounts. However, any reduction is often linked to a similar reduction in mobile phone performance, leading to a weaker signal, which can lead people to shouting more to be heard. Well, I'm sure you wouldn't mind shouting a little extra if you're protesting your nuts. Speaking of nuts, Nick Nolte charged with DUI. He's got a little problem. A drooling, droopy-eyed Nick Nolte was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol Wednesday after police allegedly spotted his black 1992 Mercedes-Benz swerving across the Malibu highway. An officer making a traffic stop on the Pacific Coast Highway heard tires squealing and saw the vehicle driven by Nolte approaching rapidly, weaving across all lanes into opposing traffic, said California Highway Patrol spokesman Leland Tang. When he pulled over, Nolte, who plays the heroin-addicted robber in his upcoming movie The Good Thief, seemed completely out of it. Tang said he was drooling with droopy eyes. He looked very much like he was under the influence. According to the AP, Nolte, 61, who failed a field sobriety test, remained in custody until about 8:30 p.m. Wednesday, at which time he was cited and released. Kind of like a Beth on Guiding Light. Oh, by the way, Monday's the day Guiding Light goes to 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to have to tape it. God damn it. Just when it's getting pretty intense, too, damn it. Man. And when Michelle is cozying up to Bill now, the boyhood, girlhood chums, whatever the hell they were, they're starting to get a little bit tight. And when Ed is starting to cozy up to Cassie a little bit, getting pretty tense, isn't it? He was extremely pleasant and cooperative, Tang said. Apparently there were even a few passersby, and one of the passersby stopped and took pictures. The actor's publicist, Arnold Robinson, had no immediate comment. Can't imagine why. Porn outfit bids for Napster. An adult entertainment media company wants to buy the song-swapping service Napster and has offered more than $2.5 million worth of its stock for the now defunct company. That's with an N. Private Media Group, Inc., a publicly traded adult entertainment site based in Spain, offered 1 million shares for Napster's assets. Shares of Private Media, which distributes its adult media content directly and through a network of local affiliates and independent distributors, ended yesterday's session at $2.41 on NASDAQ. In a statement, Private Media says it wants to use the Napster trademark to offer millions of adults worldwide the ability to swap adult-oriented content for free and at the same time gain access to top-quality content at a reasonable price. That sounds appealing, don't it? See, they're both on it already. They're both looking for it.
We're searching.
Private Media claims to own the largest library of adult-oriented content in the world with global copyrights to the content. Napster, which had once had a cult following of some 60 million, was forced to shut down last year after major record labels convinced the federal judge it violated copyright laws. Napster used a networking technology called peer-to-peer, which allows users to share files. 11:56 at 560 WQM. Can't wait for that. Meantime, all we got is Cliff Gorman. Well, that'll have to do for now. If you love your home but you need more space, here's how you solve that problem. Do what a lot of other smart people are doing and call our friends at Strictly Additions. Whether you're having a baby and need another room, if you're converting a carport or patio into living space, maybe you went into business for yourself and you want to make an office in your home. All you have to do is call the good people at Strictly Additions. They'll take care of all of it for you. They're your one-stop shop, more space for your place with an absolutely worry-free approach to expanding your living place and space. Those no-shows by the contractors? Not going to happen. Incomplete work? No way. No unexpected bills. No worries about the job not getting done right. And they take care of every single last detail. They draw up your blueprints. They get the building permits. Handle all the inspections for you. They take away all the hassle. Just leave it to them. Strictly Additions has got an easy 5-step approach to total customer satisfaction. Number 1, call to schedule a free project evaluation appointment right in your home where a project estimator will determine the scope of your addition. Number 2, schedule a bid appointment in their convenient showroom where you'll get a detailed proposal and an exact price for your work. Number 3, you select your finishing touches, go to contract. Number 4, review the design, architectural drawings. And then number 5, you sit back and relax as your dream addition moves ahead on schedule with unbeatable quality. It's as simple as all of that. So give Strictly Additions a call at 954-791-8100. 791-8100. Look for the ad in the yellow pages. They're licensed. They're insured. They do spectacular work. Tell them that Neil told you to call Strictly Additions at 954. Get it right this time. 791-8100.
Live and local. We're Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Hey, it's Steve Goldstein, but you can call me Geldy. Whenever I'm in town, I listen to... Wait a minute, I am in town. It's the 12 to 1 hour. Stop!
9 o'clock on a Sunday night, and I'm gonna watch HBO. There's some dumb show about a funeral home. Where did Tony and Big Pussy go? I've had to wait over a year and a half to see if that Russian guy's dead. But when I turn on the tube, I'm sure getting screwed, because they're showing our list instead. Goomba, Goomba, da da da. Goomba, da da da. Where the hell are the Sopranos, man? I've waited too long for this thing. I want to see Polly and Silvio in the back room of the Bada Bing. It's been so long since the last episode. There's so many things I forgot. Did Paulie get whacked? Is Furio smoking crack? And does Tony still sail the Stugat? So I pick up the latest TV guide, and that's when I start feeling fine. Thank God HBO's bringing back the day goes each and every Sunday at 9. Oh, it's season 4 of The Sopranos, man. Good thing they're bringing it back. If I had to wait even 1 second more, I'd have my cable guy whacked. Hey, forget about it. It's about friggin' time, ain't it?
Number 3, you're going to all be watching with bated breath. What is that? Sunday?
Sunday,
Sopranos. Am I going to be watching that?
No.
It's on every night, the ones from last year. I can watch about 2 minutes and then move along, watch the racing from Mohawk and wherever else. Russia ready to attack Georgia. I went on the Channel 7 new website during the break to see if they had like a more complete story on the thing on the alley. And lo and behold, here's this story. Early in the show, I read a thing about Russia and Poontang and Bush making a tit-for-tat on Iraq and Georgia. Russia ready to attack Georgia, it says. Russia's military is ready to launch attacks in Georgia to flush out Chechen militants believed to be based in a remote mountainous region, Defense Minister Sergei Ivanov warned Thursday. What team does he play for? Georgia's been under Russian pressure for months to take action against militants in the Pankisi Gorge, but its poorly equipped military, which has only about 17,000 men, has launched only one operation which produced few results, the detention of 13 alleged criminals and one suspected Arab militant. The pressure increased yesterday with the release of details of a letter President Poontang sent to world leaders outlining Russia's complaints about Georgia's inaction and asserting Russia's right to launch attacks in line with the UN Charter enshrining countries to self-defense. The Georgian parliament sent a statement late yesterday to the UN, NATO, and other international organizations saying that Poontang has placed in front of Georgia the threat of aggression. Ivanov, meanwhile, told reporters specific attack proposals would be presented to Putin in the near future. He said such strikes may not be needed if Georgia takes appropriate measures, the Interfax news agency reported. How do you like that? It says a Russian attack could trouble relations with the U.S. American troops have been based in Georgia since May, giving anti-terrorism training to the Georgian military. However, it says the timing of Putin's letter to world leaders coming as the UN General Assembly was to hear President Bush make his case for military action against Iraq indicated Putin wants to draw parallels between the Russia-Georgia and U.S.-Iraq disputes. Russia has vehemently opposed any unilateral action by the U.S. against Iraq, and it's unclear if the Kremlin would abandon its objections if the U.S. gave tacit approval to an assault in Georgia. How do you like that? Like that story I read earlier. Probably a lot of people out there saying, oh, yeah, that's just a bunch of propaganda. Right. Right.
Have handed in what they say is their identification.
Oh, look at that. Men of Jordanian,
have
Pakistani, and Iranian descent.
The information they have been provided, they do
like
believe that 2 are naturalized U.S. citizens, 1 is a U.S. citizen. But they're saying, use the words appear to be, Kelly, because we could find out that this documentation is fake. There's always that possibility.
Right.
So, 99% sure we're okay here, but there's always that 1% chance that these are fake documents. And yes, they were medical students, according to a variety of officials that I spoke to today, and they were attending school not here in the United States, but in Dominica, in the Caribbean. And I was also told by a U.S. official that it appears that they were on their way to a medical conference in Miami. At least that is a story that has been told to them, and they're corroborating. There's no specific information linking these individuals to any terrorist activity. That's why their names are not being released. That is why there are no charges brought. They are being held for questioning at this point. That is it. They are not being, as you said, and very important to underscore here, not being called suspects or being held as
that's
suspects.
because nobody is ever a suspect. Come on, quit kidding us, okay? I say we fry them all. Just, let's rev up old Sparky one more time and fry the three of them just to be on the safe side. Isn't it better to be safe than sorry? That's what John Ashcroft says. Let's fry them.
Oh!
Right. Sounds good to me. Voters betrayed. This was an editorial in yesterday's Herald, which I never got around to. What a mess. And by the way, I should point out before I read this, Janet Reno is playing hardball, baby. She's got the big hard balls out, and she says, hey, just hang on a minute, cowboy. Let's recount some votes here. Whole bunch of votes in Dade that didn't get counted, allegedly. I think there were a whole bunch of dead people who are still trying to get to vote. So let's wait and be sure and make sure that everybody got their fair chance to vote. So if we can try to make up those 8,100 votes. Oh, it's so sad. What a mess. In the first statewide vote since the 2000 presidential election, we in South Florida have embarrassed ourselves again, says the Herald. We completely botched an important election while the nation watched. Counties throughout the state reported some problems, but the most severe and damaging occurred in Dade and Broward. Simply put, there is no excuse, none, for what happened Tuesday in scores of our polling places. Some precinct openings were delayed for hours. Poll workers weren't familiar with new touchscreen computers. Precincts closed before the extended 9 p.m. deadline. Computer voting cartridges were misplaced. Votes were erased. Poll workers quit or didn't show up. Voters were turned away. Party identification cards were in short supply. Voters were denied or no vote meant. That was on the gay rights referendum. In short, most of what could go wrong did go wrong in these two counties. Blame for this inexcusable electoral meltdown must go to the county election supervisors, whose primary responsibility is to plan and organize elections. It might be argued, and probably will be, that the state failed to give county supervisors enough resources to guarantee a relatively error-free election, but that would just be a lame excuse. After the 2000 election debacle, state lawmakers passed new laws that dealt with some of the more egregious problems discovered in punch card balloting. Florida also allocated $20 million for new electronic voting systems, modernizing voting in every county. Election supervisors may assert correctly that they didn't get all the money they requested, but the mandate from lawmakers and voters was resoundingly clear: no more screw-ups. Proof that doing the job is possible was evident in the performance in other counties across the state. In populous Hillsborough County, for example, election supervisors worked out kinks in the new touchscreen system with a trial run involving thousands of computers and voters. In Pasco County, poll workers were given 12 hours of training on procedures and new equipment compared to 4 hours in Dade. 4 hours in Dade. State officials say they were hampered by last-minute changes in computer software applications, which left little time for training. In Broward, election supervisor Miriam Oliphant has battled incessantly with county commissioners about funding and voting machinery. Wednesday, Miami Mayor Alex Pinga-Pequena called for a fact-finding investigation by the county's inspector general that would be overseen by an independent civilian panel. The Inspector General should quickly analyze what went wrong and why, and make recommendations that can be implemented before the November general election. In Broward, Ms. Oliphant called for a similar process. Both are worthy efforts that can prevent a recurrence, albeit after the fact. Obviously, the focus of Broward and Dade officials must be to prevent a similar disaster in November. Obviously. Nevertheless, the harm done to voters in the primary election is unforgivable. Few activities that citizens participate in are as critical to democracy as voting, yet thousands of voters have been disenfranchised by officials' lack of planning and poor organization. This debacle is an unconscionable betrayal of all South Florida's voters. How do you like that? The self-righteous uppity Herald says, and they're absolutely right. Unconscionable, unacceptable, a pile of crap is what it was. You can smell it a million miles away. I can smell it all the way up here. It's either that or Josh Friedman's in the building again. Is he still there, by the way?
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you one. It may sound ridiculous. Let me ask you one question about that.
Why?
Yeah, why?
I don't know.
Well, they had to have somebody on MSNBC, I guess. Anyway, it's 11 past noon at 560 QM. These three men of Jordanian, Pakistani, and Iranian descent.
They, may have no connection to any formal terrorist group, who may just be sympathizers to a cause, or may just think,
or maybe not. Quit conjecturing already. Okay, they may be this. Let us know when you got something. I realize you assholes have got a lot of time to fill on there, and the picture of the two cars sitting there on a goddamn alley isn't really all that exciting. And even the little robot, the bomb-sniffing robot there, isn't all that exciting anymore. Even the dogs they ran out. Do you notice that? The bomb-sniffing dogs, they took off. They said, what's for lunch? Let's get out of here. Here's a guy that's always ready for a good lunch, Tom Lehman at Hallett Pontiac GMC. And they're at it again down there, our good friends. One more time. 0% financing continues. That's right. With approved credit from GMAC, you can get, right now as I speak, 0% financing up to 36 months on all 2003 Pontiac and GMC models. And, of course, the fact that they slipped that into this copy means the 2003 Pontiacs and GMCs are here. Or take a rebate of up to $4,000 on all 2002 Pontiacs or GMC models in stock. Check out the complete line of GMC SUVs, including that very exciting spiffy Envoy, voted by Motor Trend as the SUV of the year. And check out the all-new Pontiac Vibe SUV. It's a real gas guzzler. I mean, it's got the power of a sports car at a fraction of the price. Hell, it's also got a great selection of dependable pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. And if some other clown in town turned you down for credit when you tried to buy a car, forget about that. Forget about that place, because Hallett Pontiac will find some way to work you a deal. So if you want an unbeatable deal on Pontiacs and GMCs, this is always the place. And when you go down there, you'll discover why they've been in business in the same place for so long, because they treat you right and they make you an unbeatable deal. 13401 South Dixie Highway, that's US 1 across from the Falls, open every day, 7 days a week. Hallett Pontiac GMC, we are professional grade.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560. QAM.
Holy cow, Aaron's coming.
Hi, I'm Jeb Bush, and I'm just like all of you out there, except I'm rich. Very, very rich. I've got more money than any of you will ever see in your whole life, without ever having to earn a penny of it, like you poor losers have to do. But hell, look who I'm running against, so why not vote for me? You know, I'm so rich I paid the Jewish Journal to back me. Boy, even for a rich, spoiled kid like me, that set me back a bundle. I want to be your governor for the same reason a dog licks his balls, because I can. I want to relate to the little guy, like people who have to do their own shopping, things like that. It's difficult for me because I'm rich. So let's work together to build a better Florida. Vote for me, Jeb Bush, because I'm rich.
1217 at 560 WQAM. What's the guy? Cliff Gorman, right?
Right.
Never heard of him. I almost forgot his name. So he just doesn't qualify. But over the weekend, I'm sure that we got like a long weekend. Not a long weekend, but we've got, the rest of today and tomorrow on Sunday. We can find some other famous person who can, complete the trilogy. Do we have like a time limit on what period they have to die in? I guess like within a couple of days. Files show church allowed 5 priests to continue work despite many allegations. Newly released personnel files of 5 priests show the Archdiocese of Boston was told about numerous allegations of sex abuse against the priest, some dating back 4 decades, but allowed the priest to continue in parish work.
Oi!
The documents made public yesterday detail multiple allegations against the Reverend Robert V. Gale, who was arrested last month for allegedly raping a boy in the church rectory at St. Jude's Parish in Waltham over a 4-year period in the 1980s when the boy was 10 to 14 years old. The documents also describe allegations made against the Reverends John Atwater, Richard Coughlin, I guess they used to call him Father Coughlin, George J. Rosencrantz, and Joseph Welsh. Many of the allegations are contained in correspondence sent to 3 church supervisors, Bishop John McCormick of Manchester, New Hampshire. It goes on. The documents were obtained by attorneys who represent approximately 250 people who claim they were abused by priests. There were a number of occurrences with the knowledge of the supervisors of the Archdiocese going back pretty far, and yet they don't remove the priests, said attorney Jeffrey Newman. The records, when you look at them as a group, are really quite profound in detailing the specific factual basis on which they could have taken them out of the parishes and put them where they would have had no contact with children or simply retire them. Donna Marissi, rhymes with Sissy, the spokeswoman for the Archdiocese, whose name we've heard 8 million times in the last few months, didn't immediately return phone calls looking for comment. We can't imagine why. She's busy, old Donna. Editorial in yesterday's Palm Beach Post, even angrier than the Herald, I believe, or at least equally pissed off. Florida became the unruly guest at Wednesday's national funeral while Americans observed moments of silence, visited places of worship, attended memorial services, and otherwise paid tribute to the democratic freedoms that separate the U.S. from those who would destroy it. Florida looked once again like the stumblebum state that can't get democracy right. There was somebody, if I can interrupt this, there was somebody last night, I think, on the Hardball with Chris Matthews. I don't remember who the guest was, but he was saying, he said, things in the election in Florida went pretty well, at least as compared to any other Latin American country.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, we've been getting every shot, and of course, we don't care anymore because we're used to it. I mean, you can't shame us. We're like Greg Reed. Assigning blame, the Palm Beach Post says, however, is not as easy as it might seem. Obviously, election supervisors in Broward and Dade counties get a large portion. David Leahy, who under the Dade Charter is appointed by the county commission, has done the job since 1981. Oh, why, we have no idea. Miriam Oliphant was elected 2 years ago in Broward. Each should have known what was coming. They and the 65 other supervisors knew that after 2000, new coverage and public attention would magnify even normal glitches in the first major test of a new system. It is inexcusable, however, when voters can't get to the system. Dozens of Broward and Dade precincts opened late. Poll workers didn't turn on machines or didn't know how to operate them. Republicans and Democrats got each other's ballots. Some voters claimed they asked for provisional ballots and didn't get them. In Dade, some of the affected precincts were in the same African-American neighborhoods where voters still believe they were disenfranchised, screwed over in the 2000 presidential election. If nothing else, chaos to the south made Palm Beach County, where problems were minor, look good. Election Supervisor Teresa Lepore was late with complete results, however, apparently because she didn't use enough of the laptop computers that tabulate votes. But Governor Bush was wrong to absolve himself and the legislature. Ultimately, Tuesday's troubles were a factor only in the Democratic primaries for Governor and Attorney General, which happen to be the two major statewide races. Each is very close, and neither winner will get a majority. Until this year, partisan primaries went to a runoff. As part of Florida's post-2000 election reforms, the legislature and Governor Bush eliminated partisan runoffs for this year only. The intent was to hurt any Democratic candidate for governor who might finish a strong second, and then slingshot to victory in the runoff and gain momentum to challenge Governor Bush. That's how Ruben Askew and Governor Bob Graham became governor, and Lawton Charles got to the U.S. Senate. Add the runoff, and much of this new controversy goes away. The state would know who's in the runoff. Who came in first wouldn't matter. There'd be no talk among Bill McBride and Janet Reno's advisors about how they're looking at legal options. Buddy Dyer and Scott Maddox would be gearing up for the chance to go against Charlie Crist for Attorney General. Christ. We also note that Governor Bush chose to call Tuesday's election shameful because people couldn't vote. He showed no such outrage in 2000 when many of the same Floridians complained that their votes hadn't been counted. Then, of course, Governor Bush was on the side that didn't want the votes counted. He won't want them counted in November either. In fairness to Florida, this state has enacted election reform for itself while Congress is still arguing over how to do it for the nation. California's Riverside County, which pioneered the use of touchscreen machines, had many of the same startup problems, such as workers not turning machines on soon enough. Elections in that county now run smoothly. Also, there were examples throughout the state that a competent supervisor can run trouble-free elections even in large counties. Hillsborough County, which has 519,000 registered voters and has the same machines Palm Beach County bought, had minor issues in a handful of precincts, and all results were in by 2 a.m., even with a 2-hour extension. Some changes, though, would help to avoid some of the problems that cropped up this time. The legislature should require that the once-in-10-year special redistricting sessions that take place as soon as census information is available, which is roughly 18 months before general election. New maps this year weren't final until barely 2 months before the primary, thus forcing tough deadlines on large counties. To deal with shortage of poll workers, more than 100 in Palm Beach County quit over the weekend. Counties should have to train county employees for the job. They would be reliable, and most would be available on short notice. And most of them would be under the age of 200, by the way. Election supervisors should extend the voting period. Counties could open a limited number of universal polling places at malls and courthouses the previous Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, then open all polling places Tuesday. Or voting could take place Tuesday and Wednesday. The state could pick up some of the extra expense. The danger of chronic ballot bungling is that frustrated voters will become cynical non-voters. With political line drawing making so many races uncompetitive, thus reducing turnout, the state cannot afford to lose any more people whose participation in politics doesn't turn on how much money they contribute. Writers for Reno and Letterman will thank Florida for new material, but there's nothing funny about what's at stake, says the pissed-off Palm Beach Post.
Oh.
Let's hear it. In spite of their crappy sports section. How's the, let's see, U.S. remains on high alert. We know that, orange alert. And there's the little bomb-sniffing robot.
The casual nature of the technicians out there.
Authorities expect highway to be closed for some time, so if you're going to go over and try to collect like an unpaid bill from the Beasleys, you better fly, okay? Or else just forget about it.
Suggest that, indeed.
In fact, if you're trying to collect money from the Beasleys, I'd just say forget about it.
Wouldn't be anywhere near that car.
Okay, good. Broward Commissioner, this is in the Sun Sentinel this morning, defends Oliphant but urges series of changes. Like I said, it's in the Sun Sentinel from yesterday. A Broward Commissioner yesterday, well, how's that possible? I guess it must have been overnight. A Broward Commissioner yesterday came to the defense of embattled election supervisor Miriam Oliphant and urged a series of changes to get her office in the county through the November. I say fire her ass right now, okay? And David Leahy, both of them. Get somebody in there with a half a brain who's going to do things right. We only got November 5th is how many weeks away? Not too many. 20th, 27th, and then you got her about 7 or 8 weeks away, maybe less than that. Who the hell are we kidding? Fire both their ass. Get somebody in there, get this thing organized, get it done right, get a bunch of poll workers in there under the age of 1,000, and let people vote, goddammit. Black, white, purple, in between, even a few Republicans, not too many. Their spidey web of intrigue stretched from L.A. to New York to Japan, but following an 18-month investigation, 4 stolen Spider-Man costumes valued at $50,000 each and 1 Batman suit valued at $150,000 have been recovered, thank God. L.A. County prosecutors say, according to a report in Daily Variety. Aren't you relieved?
Phew.
God. That Batman outfit, I bet you that, what's his name? See, I've got
which Batman?
The one from the TV. Oh, we don't care about the ones from the movies. There are too many of those. They were all bad. They were, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Adam West, thank you.
I thought he said it out loud.
I mean, Burt Ward I wouldn't forget, but Adam, well, I was probably hyperventilating. I'm under a lot of pressure here today, you know what? There's Mark Potter. How's she doing?
They have to treat it this way. You've had that conversation with Kelly, who talked about the same thing, and this gentleman here underscores that same point, that they have no choice when they get this kind of information. People here praise the woman in Georgia for what she said. They defend.
See that? Like I said, even though you're picking on her, give her the Congressional Medal of Honor.
I wasn't picking on her.
Yeah, you were. You were saying some caustic thing about her. You said that Yahoo bitch or something like that. Maybe you just muttered it under your breath. I heard it.
You heard it. Hey, by the way, they also caught the Spider-Man outfit, too.
That was in the first sentence. See, if you'd have been paying real close attention.
Oh, see, I missed that. I wasn't paying close attention.
You got to, pay real close attention. Listen, I know you're not fooling me that when I'm doing these shows from remote locations, from here in Amsterdam and around the world and Jennemsveld, I know that you guys are in there playing Parcheesi and screwing around.
We're playing life.
Probably, chasing Doreen around the room. 1226 at 560 WQAM. I was going to say I could get even with you, but I think I just did. Are you sick of being taken advantage of by real estate agents and brokers when you're looking to sell your home? You're sick of that?
Yes.
Well, if you are, check out SaveRealty.com, and here's how this works. You retain the right to sell your home. You can also show and sell your home to buyers who call you directly, and if you sell your home this way, you pay only 1% commissions, and that's it. SaveRealty.com cooperates with all MLS realtors. You can also show your home to realtors, and if they sell your home, you'll only have to pay the realtor the commission they traditionally charge for bringing you a buyer. The bottom line is you save money. Contact SaveRealty.com on the web at SaveRealty.com. Makes sense to me. Or call them directly at 954-788-2660. If you want to stop dealing with real estate agents or brokers when you're selling your home and save plenty of money at the same time, let SaveRealty.com show you how to do it. Log on to SaveRealty.com today. SaveRealty.com, the best and easiest way to sell your home. Here's that number one more time for the West Coast, 954-788-2660.
Live and local. This is Sports Radio 560. QAM.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
John, you have been a star for more than 25 years. I have been asking you for 25 years to me. You never would. Why today? What am I doing right?
Well, I just feel that when you get a lot of offers, you want to do them. I mean,
so you really think it was meant to be?
Oh, very much so. You know, look at this. Sorry, feeling her breath. All I can tell you is what I observe to be true. You know, at first glance, you know, this is, bordering on gruesome at moments, you know. And I cry for you.
This is over.
For you, dear, the only.
If they mourn September 11th,
this is Eunice, your girlfriend Eunice Stone from Georgia,
13th.
who eats at Chonies.
They said they had attended a party in Chicago the night before, and that they needed to quit stopping because they were 5 hours late. And then I just naturally, my curiosity, I just kept listening, and something else was said. They were kind of huddled together there over the booth talking, and then one guy said, "Do you think that will bring it down?" And I looked at my son, and we were just looking at each other, and he said, "Well, if that don't bring it down, I have contacts. I'll get enough to bring it down." And to me, that meant they were planning to blow up something.
And as you listen to the words there of Eunice Stone, the woman who called authorities about a possible terrorist attack on the U.S., we take you live to the scene where...
No, we don't want to go to the scene. Delta flight to Miami, CNN just reported, has been diverted. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Did they say where it was coming from or anything else?
No, I just said it was diverted.
Okay. Well, you know, they're on heightened alert in your area. Aren't you glad that you're there and I'm here, by the way?
Yeah, really glad.
Oh. Hey, listen, they're under heightened alert, the port and all, just to be on the safe side, because this thing on the alley could be the beginning of a plot that they're, uncovered. And certainly it wouldn't, if there was some kind of a plot, there wouldn't just be three gypsies, driving down from Calhoun County, Georgia. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So everybody's like under heightened alert. And of course, you got the tropical storm is on the way. And you got the election is still hanging up in the air. Like I said, being here is not so bad. Greenspan sees depressing effects. I'll tell you one thing. He was speaking yesterday, and you watched that market tanking. It was incredible. Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan told Congress yesterday that depressing effects on the American economy still linger from the terror attacks and the stock market's steep plunge. But Greenspan rejected Democrat suggestions that President Bush's future tax cuts be deferred because of the return to federal deficits. Economic fallout from the terrorist attacks and the huge drop in stock prices is still being felt as the economy tries to make a full recovery from last year's recession, Greenspan told the House Budget Committee as stocks were in a freefall while his lips moved. To date, the economy appears to have withstood the set of blows well, although the depressing effects still linger and continue to influence, and particularly the federal budget outlook, he said. For the federal budget, the outlook has moved from black to red ink. Projections of a decade of surpluses of $5.6 trillion have been replaced with estimates of a return to sizable deficits over the next several years.
The dog clearly alerted, in the opinion of his handler, and occasionally you get false positives.
Would it have been gasoline? If I could follow up, does it mean it's a false positive, or does it mean that while there may be some residue that you can't see in a manual search there, you didn't actually find something?
Yeah, I'm not a bomb technician. I send either one of those issues.
Now let me ask you this: is 4, 6, 7, or 10? Like I'm sure, because it's the noon hour anyway. It's like their general news time for some of them. Are they on top of this thing? Because maybe we'll get a further update. Because they seem to be hell-bent on CNN and just hanging out there on the alley and talking to the same people, this Piccolo guy, over and over and over again. And, yeah, the one car ran through the toll booth without paying the toll, which was really brilliant, and et cetera and so on. All these things we already know about. Is there anything on the other channels?
Well, it's on Channel 4.
Yeah.
I don't have Channel 7.
Why do you keep saying that? How come Channel 7
not here? It's no.
It's not on the
Chuck,
cable.
is there anything on 7?
7's the same thing. They're showing a picture of the two cars with the cute little robot, picking around in there. But that's all.
It is a cute little robot. But even a robot turned tail a little while ago and said, hey, enough of this crap, I'm getting out of here. Even a robot's getting fed up because they're not finding much of anything. But they did find the Islamic writing. But, of course, it really shouldn't be too surprising. If one guy's from Iran, one guy's from Iraq, and the other from Pakistan, the fact they found papers with Arabic writing in the cars, I don't think is like a major revelation. You see what I'm saying? In other words, if the three guys were Chinese and they found Chinese writing, and it probably wouldn't be a big surprise. But nevertheless, they're going pa-pa-pa like that. I'd like to find out more about the Delta flight, where it was coming from, why it was diverted, where it went to. That's what I'd like to find out more about. But we'll have to wait until they're good and ready to tell us. And as soon as they do, we'll tell you. Murder charge in Timberlake fan death. This is a grotesque story we had the other day that George tried to make fun of, by the way, a couple of days ago.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was terrible, George. A motorist has been charged. That's probably why he got sick, because God was punishing him.
Ew, God.
A motorist has been charged with murder for allegedly hitting a woman who was waiting outside a radio station with a group of fans to see pop star Justin Tinkerbell. Cameron Albert Duty, 21, was charged Wednesday with one count of murdering Ann White, 21. He remained in jail on $1 million bail pending a September 26th arraignment in Superior Court. I think his punishment, they should make him sleep with Justin Tinkerbell for a few weeks and then fry his ass. White was standing on the sidewalk outside the studios of KISS FM in neighboring Burbank Monday night when a pickup backed up and hit her. The woman was pinned out of the truck, which then went forward and dragged her about a block, police said. Duty was stopped about a block away by police. Police have said Duty didn't know the woman apparently did not intend to hit her right. Nothing like backing up into a crowd. The radio station was hosting a special late-night interview with Tinkerbell. The NSYNC singer is promoting his upcoming solo album. Aren't you going to go out and buy that right away?
I'm leaving right now.
Yeah, if you're leaving right now, it's not because of the album, because you're getting panicky. Don't get panicky now, okay? And what is this?
Yeah.
What is this invoice you just sent me?
An invoice?
Outlet store purchase order. Oh, you know something? This is an ad. Can you believe this? This is the first time this has happened on my fax up here. Here's an ad, like you get them at home on your fax all the time. I don't know if you do, but I sure do.
Yeah, sure.
Outlet store purchase order from some joint in British Columbia, Surrey, B.C. Well, stick that up your ass, baby. Purchase this, you idiot. How do you like that in the middle of this important radio show, and I hear the fax machine puking over here, and I assume maybe it's something very, very urgent or important or not, as the case may be, but at least like to have the chance. And it's an ad. Jesus, K. Christ. Powder in Ohio tower from nail gun. This is another bit of nervousness they had the other day. Well, the substance that was sniffed by bomb-detecting dogs leading to the evacuation of a state office tower was a powder used in nail guns, police said yesterday. No nail gun was found in the van where the two dogs detected the powder, but the company that owns the vehicle often uses .22 caliber nail guns with cartridges containing smokeless nitrate powder, State Trooper Lieutenant Gary Lewis said. The search and 2-hour evacuation of the 41-story James A. Road State Office Tower, which houses about 4,000 people, came on the first anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. The evacuation was ordered after a worker said the van's driver told her, "I'm here to hide a bomb." Oh, God. There's the governor,
threat as it relates to
such as
any
he
kind
is.
of detonation devices or anything like that in the car. But in this time of heightened vigilance, I think that it is important to show that this system works. And I'm very proud of law enforcement officers across the state that responded very well.
Great.
And the citizen in Georgia deserves high praise as well.
Eunice Stone. She's the best.
That's the initial, although there's still an ongoing investigation.
Yeah, we know that, Jeb. Like we expected. What's he going to tell us? Nothing. That's what he's going to tell us. This guy's dumber than sawdust, man. All he knows is he's got in contact with his buddies in Dade County. Let us in. And they're like trying right now to help Janet out. We'll find her. If we need 50,000 more dead people to vote, we'll find them because Janet's going to win by hook or most likely by crook because that's the way most elections in this state go.
Live and local. This is 560. The radio's all yours now. QAM.
Jeb Bush.
K-Tel presents number 748 of the greatest songs of love, especially for the lady in your life by Jerry Lewis.
Lady, when I'm with you, I'm crazy.
So many love songs for your lady, all interpreted by the Love Meister himself, an inimitable superstar entertainer, Jerry Lewis. And you'll get your favorite lady love song.
Lady, across my big breast and...
It's an amazing compendium of 748 love songs for your lady, all digitally remastered and all performed by the masterful superstar, Jerry Lewis.
Hi, this is Jerry, inviting you to join me on K-Tel Records as we pay a very special musical tribute to the lady.
You'll get this Aerosmith classic.
Hey, dude looks like a lady. Hey, dude looks like a lady.
It's Jerry.
It's a little old lady with a pair of tweezers.
And Helen Reddy's hit never sounded better.
That ain't no way to treat a lady, no way to teach a lady, no woman.
And listen to Jerry's amazing interpretation of this super hit from the King of Pop.
You are the lady with my wife, the lady. You are the lady with a knife.
Jerry Lewis.
Oh yeah, how about that band?
That's 748 fabulous lady songs on 35 CDs or 123 8-track tapes, all remixed in glorious mono from the original cassette masters. And it's a collection you'll cherish, your friends will love, and your lady will never forget. It's all yours for 17 easy payments of only $32.95, and it's only from K-Tel Records. You can tell it's K-Tel. We yell.
341 votes on our poll. Who do you think is the most dangerous person in the world today? George W. Bush, 121. Seems to be pulling away again. Saddam Hussein, 98. Osama Yamama, 55. The Pope, 35. Ariel Sharon, 17. And Yasser Arafat has got 15. He's starting to move up on Ariel, and he's probably uncomfortable about it. It was almost amusing. You don't know whether to laugh or cry. Were you listening to any of the audio from the question and answer deal there, little impromptu press conference with Governor Jebster?
No.
And one of the goofball reporters, who was almost in a state of hysteria, Governor, what do you want to tell the people at home? You want to tell them to calm down and just relax? It sounded like the guy was going to have a stroke. So everybody out there, just calm down, okay? Don't get all bent out of shape.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
Yeah, but beside that, just calm down. What an idiot this guy was. Just relax, okay? I mean, if the world's going to end, believe me, we'll be the first ones to know it. Emails allegedly tell more about shoe bomb mission. Court documents allege that accused shoe bomber Richard Reed, remember him?
Yep.
Lovely-looking guy. Used an email account to plot with an unknown associate and compose a will justifying his mission in the days before he tried to blow up a jet over the Atlantic. The email establishes, in Reed's own words, his expectation that he'll die doing as part of the ongoing war between Islam and disbelief, prosecutors say, in a brief filed late Wednesday in U.S. District Court. The filing quoted from the emails as they appeared, including misspellings. The motion in support of using the emails as evidence in Reed's trial also included portions of 2 FBI interviews. In those interviews, Reed told agents he picked the U.S. target because of military action against the Taliban in Afghanistan and Israeli treatment of Palestinians. America is the problem. Without America, there would be no Israel, he told agents after he was arrested at Logan International Airport on December 22nd. Reed, 29, is scheduled to go on trial November 4th on charges that include attempted murder, attempted destruction of an aircraft, and interfering with a flight crew. Reed, a British citizen, allegedly tried to set fire to his sneakers on American Airlines Flight 63 from Paris to Miami. Every piece of crap story, everything depressing, everything morbid, everything negative, everything embarrassing, it all comes back to South Florida. As we know, he was subdued by passengers and flight attendants, taken into custody when the jet was rerouted to Boston, and of course they took away his matches. Memo warned priests against meeting kids. This is in the St. Pete Times today. In a 1994 memo, the Diocese of St. Petersburg recently reassured Catholics that it knew of no prior allegations of sexual misconduct by priests charged in May with sexually abusing boys. But there's always a but in these stories.
Rectum.
In 1994, the Diocese discovered the Reverend Robert L. Schaufel had met alone with children in areas where they weren't allowed. In a November 21st, 1994 memo, one of Schaufel's supervisors warned him about bringing children to a church rectory and his room without other adults present. The memo was released yesterday by Pinellas prosecutors after a public records request by the St. Pete Times. At the same time, Schaufel, 54, was assigned to Holy Cross Church in St. Petersburg, where he served for 10 years ending in July 2001. His supervisor, Monsignor John Neff, told him in the memo, "I'm confident that you did nothing immoral or illegal, but that this action was very imprudent and potentially dangerous for your reputation, that of the other priests in the rectory, and all of us." Officials of the diocese say a young priest just out of seminary school raised concerns with them after seeing Schaufel bring children to his rectory. Maybe he was serving them shoe fly pie. You think so? Maybe a little piece? Can't hurt. 2 faced charges in plane diversion. Besides the thing in Ohio, this was the other event that took place on Wednesday that everybody was kind of peeing their pants about. 2 airline passengers appeared before a federal magistrate yesterday on charges they interfered with crew members on a flight that was diverted to Fort Smith, Arkansas. The men aroused suspicions on a Northwest Airlines flight because one ignored a flight attendant's request to leave a restroom, and his traveling companion later insisted on using the same restroom, according to an affidavit filed with a complaint. I remember the story we had the other day said that there were like 3 of them jammed in there at the same time. How do you get 3 people in the same toilet on a plane?
It's impossible.
I mean, maybe 3 Timmys or 3 Hervé Villechers, possibly, if one of them is standing up on the toilet. The pilot of the Vegas-bound flight landed in western Arkansas, where the men were detained. Wednesday's flight was from Memphis, Tennessee. Authorities initially said the men were of Middle Eastern descent. U.S. Attorney Tom Geen said yesterday the men were of Indian descent, one of them a U.S. citizen who were headed to Las Vegas for vacation. The prosecutor said he could find no ties among the men to any terrorist organization. The federal magistrate set another hearing next week for the 2 men, Gurdeep Wander, 48, of Pennsylvania, and Harinder Singh, 41, maybe it was Captain Singh, of Jersey. They made no statement in court except to answer questions and were returned to jail. They were appointed attorneys. 2 other passengers initially detained were released. In the affidavit, flight attendant Deborah Summers said Wander went to the restroom shortly after takeoff. When she checked on him, Wander had his shirt off and was shaving with a disposable razor. She said he ignored 4 requests to return to his seat. Summers said she became alarmed when Singh wanted to use the same restroom, and she told him it wasn't working, the affidavit said. The flight attendant said she was concerned because she'd been trained that an explosive device could be assembled from components carried by separate individuals. Nice going, sweetheart. Nice going. Send him back to Bombay or somewhere. Send him to Sri Lanka. That'll teach him. So evidently they're running a spot now on CNN, so we can all take a breath and calm down, you think? We can relax. Well, no, because when they go to a commercial break, obviously it's not like breaking and impending, if you know what I'm talking about.
We're Sports Radio 560 QAM.
Friday, you bastard.
This is former Vice President of the United States, Al Gore. I have recently poked my head out of the shadows of oblivion to take pot shots at the president. I have reappeared, much like Puxatawny Phil, the groundhog creature that reappears each year to determine whether or not we'll have an early spring. I wish it to be known that it was I who was responsible for saving the lives of those 9 miners in Pennsylvania over the weekend. I had asked the media to keep my name out of it as not to appear a spotlight hog. However, I feel the American people have a right to know the truth. Here's what happened. Upon hearing of this unfortunate accident, I raced to the scene. I lowered myself into the mine using an old Ron Popeil pocket fisherman and some bailing wire. Down, 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 into the depths of darkness I sank, never thinking of my own safety, but rather of the safety of those men on the ground. When I reached the miners, they said to me, "Hey, you're the guy that invented the Internet, right?" I said yes. We all had a Mike's Hard Lemonade, which I brought with me down into the hole, and then we sat around and reenacted the fart scene from Blazing Saddles. I thought you should know the truth. And now, much like the groundhog creature Pucks the Tawny Phil, I'll sink back into the darkness of oblivion until I am needed again. This is Al Gore, superhero.
You know, I don't think it was Eunice Stone at all. I think it was Al. It was probably Al Gore overheard those three scumbags. Because you'd find him in Shoney's. 12:56 at 560 WQAM. We got the Mad Dog at 1. Hank's going to be along at 3. 5:30, it's the Dave Wannstedt Show with Hank. Marlins on deck, 6:30, as that season just refuses to end. Marlins and the Braves, 7:05. Eddie K after baseball and ESPN Radio. Oh, are we desperate overnight? Okay, here's the recap on the story in case you were asleep, in case you're just wondering. Let's summarize the whole thing. Don't you think that's a great idea?
Yeah, what's going on?
Officials shut down a 21-mile section of Alligator Alley and detained 3 men in 2 vehicles early today after an alert about alleged plans to stage a terrorist attack in South Florida. Bomb-sniffing dogs alerted authorities to material in both vehicles, but no explosives were immediately found, said E.J. Piccolo of the FDLE. Explosive charges were used to blast open what appeared to be a backpack taken from one of the vehicles at mile marker 92 near Naples. No explosives were found in the bag. The information we have is very specific, Piccolo said, whatever that means. He said the 3 people in the 2 vehicles, both with Illinois license plates, had not been arrested but were being detained. They're not suspects. Bomb experts continue to conduct a careful search of the vehicles that was being broadcast live by CBS 4 and other TV stations. At 12 p.m., officials said one of the 2 vehicles had been declared clean of any explosives. This is from the Sun Sentinel website, so naturally they're promoting CBS 4 because that's their partner in crime. The 2 bomb squad technicians in hoods and protective blast suits removed a suitcase and plastic bags from one car and searched the interior and trunk. A robot was also brought in to videotape the car and the items in the trunk. The robot was also used to unload some of the items in the trunk. CBS 4 later tentatively identified the 3 men as medical students. They're from Jordan, Pakistan, and Iran. All 3 are in the country legally. 2 of them are naturalized, the TV station be saying. Also, CBS 4 reported some of the items in the backpack that was exploded were believed to be medical-related. One of the 2 cars stopped a black Honda registered to a man in Hanover Park, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. U.S. law enforcement authorities have been on a heightened alert since Tuesday when they announced they had identified a high risk of terrorist attack on the anniversary of 9/11 early yesterday. Now, see, that's wrong. That's wrong. It says early Thursday. It was early Friday because it was 1 o'clock this morning. There's a mistake in the Sun Sentinel. And probably CBS 4, too. Early this morning, the FHP shut down a 20-mile stretch of I-75 shortly after 1 when the vehicles were stopped in Collier County. It was still almost 12 hours later. The Highway Patrol said the road was blocked off from a toll booth east of Naples to State Road 29. A spokesman for the FAA Southern District said some flight restrictions have been imposed over the scene. There's a temporary slight restriction in place at the request of Collier County Sheriff's Department, and that is within a 3 nautical mile radius of the location in question and below 3,000 feet. The restriction meant only law enforcement aircraft under the direction of the Sheriff's Department could fly in the area. One of the cars stopped to pay the $1 toll, County Sheriff Don Hunter said. The second did not. Now, why do they keep saying the toll is $1? Am I wrong about that? It used to be $1 when you used to have to pay at both ends, but now when you're coming back, you don't have to pay the toll. When you come east, you only pay, right? You only pay it on the way. I think it's like $1.50 or $2, whatever it is. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time in my life, and it's only nitpicking, but I just don't understand why they keep saying that. Anyway, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation had issued an advisory for the cars late yesterday after a woman and her husband stopped to eat at a Shoney's restaurant in Calhoun County in Georgia in the northwestern part of that state. Eunice Stone told police she overheard the 3 men of Middle Eastern descent discussing terrorist plans in English and Arabic last night, Wednesday night. The Georgia woman said the men were talking about amounts of explosives and warned that Americans would cry on 9/13. She said the men talked at normal levels as she sat at the table next to them and listened through a lattice-like structure. She said she heard them laugh about Americans mourning 9/11 and said she heard other alarming comments, including, well, if they're mourning 9/11, what are they going to do about 9/13? She asked. So just calm down, relax. Mark Carter, CNN, CBS News 4, the Sun Sentinel, everybody's got it under control, and I'm sure the Mad Dog will straighten it all out for you.
Bye, bye, bye! The Neil Rogers Show on 560 WQAM, Miami, Fort Lauderdale.
Only
and the Banana Republic.